Mountbatten, Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation and development on this story involving the Epstein files and all the allegations that have been swirling around about Andrew over the many years, from Virginia Giuffre, now sadly deceased, and since then, and certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files as released in the last few weeks. But the police have arrived at Sandringham Estate this morning, where Andrew has made his new home. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is. He has been arrested by the police. Of course, the brother of the current king, the second son of our late Queen Elizabeth. This is an extraordinary development. Those of us who've been talking an awful lot about establishment cover-ups and lack of, should we say, interest by the police in what are very, very serious allegations against Andrew. Perhaps pleased that that pressure has finally been put on the police, and they have done the job of actually looking into these issues seriously. Must bear in mind, of course, that the Prince has not been charged with any crime at this point, and he has always denied any wrongdoing in relation to any of the allegations about him. We'll give you more on that. We'll talk to you about that throughout the show, but I'm just being told that the arrest has been on suspicion of misconduct in public office. This, of course, relates to those Epstein file allegations and the documents that, if they are true, would suggest that he had, it is alleged, passed on basically what was confidential government information when he was the UK trade envoy for this country for 10 years to Jeffrey Epstein for Jeffrey Epstein's financial gain.
It's Monday the 23rd to March, and it is all change here on the home of common sense, the home of the alarm clock Brit, because Christian, the ever-present doyen of just calmness, is at home with the poops. I'm really not gonna mess this up. There's a bug doing the rounds on Christian, who famously said yesterday to one of the people who work on the show, "My wife's ill, my kid's ill, I never get ill," is absolutely raving ill. So she has strode, not the right way. Anyway, Alicia has come from the backwaters of notoriety. She's now producing the show. She's very excited. Apparently very good with the voice note. Big M's just making sure he looks after her. And Damien has returned. G-Spot, we found him. So, shock. He's back answering the phone. So, we'll do what we always do. We want your views on the news of the day. It's about you and it's about common sense. It's 0344 499 1000, 0344 499 1000. Your text messages throughout the show, 87222. What are you waking up to? As I see the screen flashing in and out, the camera's not working. What a great start to my morning. Dramatic sort of turns at Westminster yesterday. You might have heard over the weekend this strike, alleged strike, linked to Iran on Diego Garcia. That's that military base, of course, that is central to the Chagos Islands and that dodgy deal that Labour have involved in. But the big news was that we, the public, weren't, it seemed, informed for 30 hours. Questions are now flying around as to why ministers, well, didn't tell us, and what is the government hiding from us. Loads going on in the Middle East. Prices of oil and petrol soaring, US and Iran ramping up the threats against each other. We'll talk to Sean Bell later, military expert. It's all gone on the immigration front, yeah. The weather's better, the boats are coming. Shabana Mahmood wants to do a crackdown. The left say, don't be so outrageous. These people have feelings. And all the while, the French are getting 500 million quid a year from us and are getting worried because that deal is ending. I'll tell you something, an interesting story we're going to talk about today. A Tory peer, Lord Sewell, will warn Sir Keir Starmer this week. This is a report that Britain is failing white-class working boys. It's a landmark race report. It calls for urgent action on education and opportunity. And it does get to the sort of nub of something that a lot of people worry about nowadays, is in a world or rather a country where we seem to bend over backwards to welcome people and make sure everybody has equality, are we failing the indigenous population? 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. There's loads on the royal family. Andrew was seen out and about, like I give a toss, and Meghan's heading down to Australia. I was about to say it won't be the first time she's gone down under. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. So be gentle with Alicia. Get a long voice note in now, because I don't think she knows how to make them work. We, meanwhile, will say a very good morning to a man who's become central to this show, almost as central as he is to the opposition. Matt Vickers, Deputy Chairman of the Tory Party, good morning.
Good morning, how are we doing?
I'm all right, you all right?
All good, ready for action?
Poor old you haven't got the bug, have you? Christian's not well at all.
Taking care in this place.
Really taking
Keeping
care.
your vapes to yourself and all that.
Keep your vapes and all that stuff you have down south to self. Lovely. Right, listen, let's get going. Let's start with Westminster. Diego Garcia, of course, is the military base on the Chagos Islands that has caused all sorts of furore already in the 23 days of this war. That was the base on which the English, well, the government initially said, you can't use it to the Americans, and then did a U-turn. Over the weekend, and myself included, you hear that news flash, oh my God, they've launched, you know, a missile at Diego Garcia, part of British colony, if you like, land. That changes the whole edifice. But it seems he didn't tell us for 30 hours, and your leader, Badenoch, has jumped right on it. What's going on?
She's calling him out on it. I mean, the reality is Mr. Flippy Floppy, you know, Mr. Dilly Dally did the delay, wouldn't allow the US into our bases when this thing kicked off. We now hear that for some reason, why on earth is he keeping so quiet for 30 hours? He doesn't tell the public, doesn't tell Parliament. It's all a bit fishy. What's he got to cover up?
He is in an incredibly difficult position. I know a lot of people say, oh, come on, Jez, do something other than Starmer, but it is very interesting if you look at him, because hypocrisy is a really strong word, but the man is stuck between the devil and the deep blue sea, isn't he? Because he's got these Labour febrile, I mean, it is febrile, whatever you want to call it, they will not let him do anything, will they, the left of the party? You've got Angela Rayner last week sticking her head above the parapet. You've got Andy Burnham, and yet he's got a responsibility to the United Kingdom. He needs to maintain that special relationship, and he's just juggling plates, isn't he?
He would have been the first guy calling this out if we'd been covering something up like it. The last government had covered this up. He would have been there on his, you know, in his charger, whiter than white. Everything's going to be perfect under Labour. And we just see scandal after scandal. This government is absolutely riddled in scandal.
Have you got that clip yet? Have you got that Saturday Night Live clip yet? Is that ready? They're putting it in. This is. Have you seen this?
I thought this was CCTV footage from Number 10. I didn't realise it was a skit.
We left it. This is quite possibly. We will come to it the next 5. Is it? You tell me what to say. This is quite possibly the best one ever, because quite seriously, this is a Saturday Night Live from America skit of what it must be like in Number 10 with Keir Starmer and David Lammy. And literally, right, I've got it, literally, right, I mean, Donald Trump liked it and posted it to millions. Now, just if you're not watching on YouTube, just listen to the voice. This is utterly brilliant. This is how America sees Keir Starmer. Play it.
Oh, golly. Well, what if Donald shouts at me? What do I say, Lammy?
Just be yourself, Prime Minister. Yourself is who everyone likes.
Hello? Oh, sod that scary, wonderful president. Why is he so bloomin' difficult to talk to?
Sir, just be honest and tell him we can't send any more ships to the Strait of Hormuz.
Oh, crumbs. I just hate conflict so much.
Are you referring to the war or this phone call?
Isn't there a way I can not do both? I just want to keep him happy, Lammy. You don't understand him like I do. I can change him.
It's absolutely brilliant, and it goes on, but how good I'm going to play that all morning. That is just... Because Trump isn't without his faults. A lot of people are saying you've called this wrong. You said the Iranian regime would fall very quickly. You said the Iranian people will rise up. You're now at day 23. That hasn't happened. There's information that maybe missiles are being sent from Russia. Certainly the Iranians have blocked the Straits of Hormuz. In terms of us at home, petrol's going up, oil's going up. It's a bit of a mess. But Starmer is just... He's so incapable of making... Do you see the best bit in there was, I don't... He's a wonderful, scary, wonderful... He just doesn't... He can't, can he?
Well, it's meant to be a skit, but I'm sure it's CCTV.
I'm sure it is.
It's too lifelike. It's exactly what is going on in there. I think to see the President of the United States retweeting that, though, is quite a signal. Can you imagine that? At what point in our history would the relationship between the UK Prime Minister and the US President have reached such a low?
Only once.
It's shambolic. But what does that say? I mean, what does it say to the American people that the UK failed to stand its part to allow them access to our bases?
I've said it and I'll say it again, it's a new week. I'm really happy if he says, I am not involving this country in those offensive things. It may be morally, maybe we haven't got the infrastructure or whatever. But he doesn't do that. He changes from day to day. And yet again, this attack on Diego Garcia, we better not say anything, probably because we're not involved in the decision-making. He's a complete numpty. My God, Alicia, day one as the breakfast producer, has managed to get... Oh, my God. Carl, good morning.
Hi, Jeremy. Carl Inberry. Keir Starmer, the guy is absolutely clueless. He was drag kicking and screaming to get involved a bit in this war. He won't do anything. He's dead slow. He's not bothered. He's tried his best in every way to not get involved. And now it's coming home to roost. The guy is just absolutely clueless. In every single situation, he's slow. The rape gang inquiry, the pensioners, the farmers have been drag kicking and screaming through it all, and now Iran. And it's been proven that Trump was right, because they have got ballistic missiles, and it looks like they can start reaching mainland Europe. So we need to pull our finger out now, and the rest of Europe need to, and they need to join up with our key ally, which is America, and start working together instead of trying to appease his voter base. Cheers, pal.
That's it. Very well done, by the way, Alicia. That's very good. Seriously, get your voice notes in 0344 499 1000. I mean, it's really interesting. Front of the Mail. Why did the PM keep public in dark for 30 hours after Chiego's strike? The thing about this man is I actually think there needs to be greater transparency. Like with the Southport, I haven't said this to you ever. Do you remember the riots on the street after the Southport murders, right? They knew it wasn't an illegal immigrant, right? And you could argue, and you might go, that's a bit conspiratorial. They let that go across social media and everywhere, and then people went to the streets who shouldn't have, and then he was able to arrest them and call everybody far right. I think he should be absolutely transparent with the British people. And if we are in a conflict or near to a conflict, isn't the right thing to do to stand in front of your people every day and say what's going on so people are aware? Because I know people this weekend, genuinely mean this, who were freaking out, going, what? Missiles can actually hit us.
Well, I mean, the reality is
disinformation, no good.
Hiding from the scrutiny, because he knows every time he's scrutinised, every time he's held to account, every time he has to make a decision, he flounders, he fails, he delays, he dilly-dallies. The end result is it has huge costs for us and huge consequences. What we've seen with the situation in Iran is just a failure of leadership. He failed to get stuck in. He's allowed our relationship with the US to fall into absolute tatters. This must be the lowest point that special relationship's ever been, and we rely on these people
where do you
for
see
trade.
it going? I mean,
rely on them for defence.
Iran says we'll send the price of oil soaring. That's on the front of the Telegraph, front of the Times. US and Iran ramp up threats. Where does your party see this finishing?
Horrendous situation for businesses and families across the country now who are already struggling because they've been battered with. Well, you know what they've been bad with, whether it's the business rates, the jobs tax, the employment rights bill, and you're trying to run a business. Another set of costs on fuel is absolutely knackering. If you're a family struggling to make ends meet, you are being hit by the highest level of tax ever, and all of a sudden, I mean, there's still not even... We voted last week on fuel duty. We voted on the fact that fuel duty, on that, you pay 55%. 55% of everything you pay already goes to Rachel Reeves in tax on that petrol that you fill up your tank with. Now she wants more. We voted on it last week. The one thing she could do is give us the certainty straight away that she isn't going to tax more on petrol as this price goes up. She won't do that. She's suggesting that in September she's going to increase the amount of tax we pay at the petrol pump. So petrol going up, more tax on it, slam. That's businesses to the wall. That's families who can't make ends meet. And still, this government is refusing to drill in the North
Well, now, I want you to try and get this guy, and I need more info on that gold screen thing before I do it. This is brilliant. I picked this up on the way in, and the Sun, I don't know if you know this guy, little thing, Henry Tufnell, Labour MP. We want to salute him. We want to try and get him on the show. Do you know Henry Tufnell? He says Britain needs greater energy sovereignty. In the face of further geopolitical turmoil, now is the time to alter our approach to drilling in the North Sea, and scrapping carbon taxes on British manufacturing would kickstart economic growth, tackle unemployment, as well as preventing further deindustrialisation. That is a Labour MP breaking and basically saying to Miliband, this country, you can't just forever blame what's happening in Iran, although that will, of course, have exacerbated the problem. Go and drill and get your asset and pay off your debts and give something back to the British people. That's surely it.
Well, this government has
What's he like, Henry Tufnell? Do you know?
I don't really know, to be fair.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Fair play to him, though.
This government has made the decision to not drill in the North Sea our oil and gas sat there awaiting for us. The end result, we're importing it from abroad, we're paying more for it, we're putting people out of work, the people who, 200,000 jobs involved in drilling the North Sea, all at risk because of this. It's worse for the environment because we're importing the stuff in and all the emissions that are caused by it.
This is where I think I'm not actually best placed to do this job, but then I think I'm all right at it. You are a Tory MP and you've just mentioned something that nobody from the Green Party has mentioned for weeks. By the way, we have said to anybody, come on this show, Liberal Democrats, don't dress up. Greens, come on, we want to talk to you. But the Green candidate in Gorton and Denton never mentioned anything about the environmental disadvantages of drilling. They talked about Gaza and the Muslim vote. You're now talking about green issues as a Tory. I'm confused. Are you defecting to the Greens? What's happening?
Well, it's common sense. That's the problem. It's a no-brainer. We are reliant upon oil and gas from abroad, from these places that are subject to these shocks, the likelihood of Iran, the likes of Iran, because we are not drilling our own oil and gas. It's a no-brainer.
And they're drilling Norway in the very field we could drill in and then selling it to us. See, I was starting calm, Big M, and it's gone wrong. 6:04 499 1000. Text to 87222. Alicia doing a grand job. No text up yet, just making the point. Now, Pete, no, not on my screen. Pete from Golders Green. This is Pete's making what? It's a story that I haven't got much information on, but I believe a Jewish ambulance that was breaking. Three Jewish ambulances. What is the name for a Jewish ambulance service? Hatzalah, did you know that? It's an individual ambulance service for the Jewish community. 3 of them...
Run by volunteers.
Is it run by volunteers?
Yeah, run by volunteers.
3 have been attacked in Golders Green. Basic anti-Semitism in its worst instance. Pete, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Well, this last night in Golders Green, arson attacks on ambulances. And when they find out it is, no doubt, you're going to find out it's probably a terrorist attack. We can't stand this in this country any longer. Something has to be clamped down on. The law has to be toughened. The judicial system has to be toughened. And going on to the price of petrol. Well, seeing as most of our oil comes from Norway, it's just profiteering from petrol stations putting the price up. I'd like to know how much the distributors, the ones that bring all the petrol to the garages, how much they actually pay for a litre. Has that gone up for them? We don't know. If it hasn't gone up for them, then we know it's all about pure profiteering by these garages, and it needs to be clamped down on, because this country is just a rip-off via the government and via this government letting everybody get away with it. And it has to stop.
It's really interesting. So I did something yesterday that I didn't. I actually made a basic mistake. I went to the petrol station. I have a diesel car, a big guzzling diesel people carrier that takes 27 kids. I'm just being completely honest, right? And I'm that old. I bought, because I thought, anyway, diesel. Did you know there's 2 types of diesel? Oh, you can get normal diesel and Shell V diesel, but because, you know, one of them was trying to beat the crap out of the other, and I have 6 kids all weekend on my own, I just... 194 it was. And that, I mean, it was 140. But he's absolutely right. Something has to be given back by this government. I know that there are people in Labour who will say, yeah, but it's really difficult. It's really difficult, yes, for the whole world, but it's made more difficult by your appalling policies where you tax this country to the hilt and seemingly, and we'll get on to my next favourite subject, give it to every other bugger who arrives. Because guess what? Shabana Mahmood, who is not going to last very long, because if you think what's happening in Labour, you think about Angela Rayner and all this. Shabana Mahmood has said, I'm going to ramp up my migration crackdown. I'm going to plan to deport thousands before they can either appeal. Most of the Labour Party are going, you can't do that, these people are refugees. The deal with France is about to finish. That's £500 million a year for nothing. We saw some pictures at the weekend, people just wading out, giving the middle finger. I did that. I don't know, I did that. And gendarmes just watching them get on the boat, and we're giving $500 million. The weather's getting better. We're going to be invaded again, aren't we? Oh, he said invaded. Well, a big influx then. It's true, isn't it?
I mean, it's I've always conceded the last government got lots of things wrong on this, but the numbers are so much worse. Up 45% more people breaking into the country constantly, more people in hotels. And of all those people, do you remember this 1 in, 1 out, the boomerang deal? 1 in, 1 out.
No, 5,000 in half full person out.
only 6% of the people that have broken into this country have been returned. It's just unbearable. The only way to solve this, everyone at home knows it, the only way to solve it is a deterrent, is for people who get in those boats to know they will not be allowed to stay.
You and I would disagree.
Other than that, there's no way to fix it.
The biggest criticism I have of the Tories was not actually Rwanda, it was your inability to get that in. I'm sorry, and you're going to accuse me, I would have the Navy in the Channel, I would recommission a massive liner, I would pick up anybody in any boat, I would put them on that liner, they're not setting foot in this country, I would have trained a crack team of border officials. You've got 24 hours. If you haven't got it, you are going to a detention centre. And you might think this is wrong. It's not going to be a particularly nice detention centre, right? And if you come in and it's legal, we'll lay out the red carpet. Because I'd like to make this point, because you see it gets lost, doesn't it? There are plenty of people who've come to this country, people I know, who've worked, built businesses and employed people. And anybody who says those people should go home is fundamentally wrong, OK? But the truth of the matter is, how are you supposed to look the British people in the eye, not you, us anymore, and go... I mean, I was at the park, seriously, honestly, it doesn't sound right, does it? But lots of kids, and this guy came up and he said, please keep doing what you're doing. He said, I work all hours, my wife works all hours, and we're struggling to pay our bills. And I listen to talk and I see these people coming to this country, and I'm really hacked off, he says, because why don't I just sign on? Just go, well, how does that? What message is that? And so, yes, we will keep telling the truth every day because it's important.
You are entirely right. Detain, deport.
Yes.
The minute you start doing that, people will stop coming. We saw the Albania thing.
You're
the
not coming in. You're going on, and you're going to go to a detention centre. I mean, did you see the story of the Roundhouse Hotel in Bournemouth the other day?
I haven't seen this, no.
2 men who've been living tax-free. Taxpayers paying for them for 18 months in a hotel, been running a county lines drug ring. And making hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Housing them. I mean, the thing is, it's a no-brainer. You saw it with the Albania scheme. The top place from where people are arriving in the country was Albania. We got an agreement in place with Albania that said if they turn up, they're going home. The number arriving fell by 93%.
But that would be my thing about your. But that would be my thing about your government. Instead of fanning around with everything they did, I'd have been making deals with all of these countries, not just the very tall man from Albania.
Well, Rwanda was the catch-all, i.e., where you've got a deal, it happens. If you haven't got a deal, they're going to Rwanda. I don't care if you send them to Timbuktu. If you break into the country illegally, you cannot be allowed to stay. When people know that, they'll stop getting in those boats and they'll stop arriving.
This is a little bit of fun in a sea of misery. You just said something that got me. Small ears, move away. Have you ever known a rhyme that could end in Timbuktu? Tim and me went down to Kent and we found 3 women in a tent. There didn't seem a lot to do. Morning, Andy. I won't finish it.
Morning, Jezza. Andy from Birmingham. Straight in the van, down to London, mate, as you do every Monday till Thursday, paying my taxes. I just want to know about these missiles going towards Garcia. Have we got any protection on Garcia, being it's one of our old bases and whatever? I just wonder if we've got any ships protecting it or anything. Seems a bit strange to me. And surely to God now the Americans no way will want to get rid of that base to Mauritius or anybody else who are behind Mauritius for it. Anyway, bud, have a good day.
crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in Crisis. Subscribe to The Royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 6:25. It's Monday morning, the 23rd of March, and you're waking up to Talk Breakfast. My name's Jeremy Cullen. This is Matthew Vickers, single and deputy chairman of the Tory party. 0344. Didn't say, just smile. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. So you're waking up to the news that there's a lot of criticism again aimed at the government over this news on Saturday that the air base at Diego Garcia in the Chagos Islands, the other one wanted to give away, that's manned by UK and American forces personnel, was apparently fired at by Iran, but we didn't find out for 30 years. That's probably because he wasn't told, Starmer. We don't know. We'd love your thoughts on that. The government is ramping up. Well, Shabana Mahmood wants to ramp up migration controls. The rest of the Labour Party say, no, don't be horrible. They're refugees. The French are going, I want my money. The deal is up. It is a year. I want 500 million pounds. Doesn't even sound... Sounds like a low, that. I would say this only... I don't know what that is either. And that terrible story, just to give you a bit more, Jen, that's come out. Police have launched an investigation after 4 Hatzola ambulances, I hope I got that, belonging to the Jewish community. By the way, manned by volunteers, was set on fire overnight in Golders Green. The arson attack is being treated as anti-Semitic. 6 fire engines, 40 firefighters fighting this from 3 o'clock this morning. A neighbourhood watch group operating the area said it was aware of loud explosions. A manhunt for 3 suspects is underway. I will say this until they drag me out of this studio. I find, Matt, any form of racism abhorrent, but I do not understand why anti-Semitism is not put on the same revolting pedestal that other forms of racism. It is utterly, utterly disgusting and abhorrent. And if I was the Prime Minister, that is the very thing that I would be doing something about, but not... And his wife's Jewish, by the way.
Anti-Semitism is racist. This is the thing that, peddled by the hate marches. Yep. We saw it march through the streets of central London. We saw the BBC broadcasting absolutely vile content into our homes. And this is where it leads. Ambulances manned by volunteers there to save people's lives, and not just people.
And by the way, because this is a fact, not just for the Jewish community, which tell you something about my Jewish friends, this is for the whole community, manned by Jewish volunteers, set on fire. And these people will get away with this because why? Why?
Ambulance is there to help people at their hour of need in whatever situation. I mean, it's the lowest of the low, really. Of all the things that are said, of all the things that are broadcast, of all the things that we're tolerating that are intolerable in this country in the way that the Jewish people are treated, to see ambulances burned, it's unbelievable.
0344 499 1000. Morning to Sarah Bird. Will she give... I don't know. I'm waking up to you too, and I'm enjoying it. There you see, you're making it a splash, Matt. Because morning, Louise. Good morning. Why not mention the arson attack on the 4 Amsterdam Golders Green? Shocked you're not leading with it. Louise, sorry, I've just been talking about it for half an hour, but fair enough. See what these people do. This is what I have to deal with. But bless you. Thank you for being on the button, Louise. In Ipswich, Lee in Market Harborough. That clip from Saturday Night Live, UK. No one likes Zippy Starmer. Great show. Please, can you play it again? I will in a minute. George in Leicester, good morning. I've got a question for Matt, if he can answer this. Is our energy price set by our dirtiest energy, i.e. oil or gas, or once we get to 51% renewables or cleaner energy, will our energy prices drop? And if this is true, why do we need to achieve 100% of clean energy? Very good question.
There is no magical thing that when the balance turns, prices are going to drop. It's just not a thing. The reality is we're going to need oil and gas for many, many years to come. We can't turn green overnight, no matter what. Actually, we're better off if we were using the grubby stuff and we weren't paying the carbon duties that we're paying.
Yeah.
If you took away, so the Kemmys put this forwards, you axe the Climate Change Act, you get rid of the carbon tariffs that we're paying, you get rid of the renewable subsidies, you would see instantly a 20% cut in your energy bills. There's a plan there, it can be delivered. We start drilling our own oil and gas. Of course renewables are a sensible thing. If we can get power from the sky, We should do, but
But
we should do it in a way.
get enough.
We should do it in a way that works, that doesn't drive people's energy prices over a cliff edge. This isn't. It's not an if or but. It's a we can do this sensibly on the side. It doesn't mean we can turn off the power that we need to run our lives.
Let's call it out again. At page 2 of the Sun, just a little bit. Henry Turnbull, a Labour MP, a backbench MP, writing in the Sun today and calling out David Miliband or Ed Miliband, whatever, they're both mad. Anyway, you need to drill for the sake of this country. Patricia Wilson, this carbon tax is the biggest scam to date. CO2 is essential to the regreening of the planet and life itself. It does not cause global warming. It's a symptom of a warming. We're being lied to on an industrial scale. Agreed. David Thomas, good morning. Whilst the focus is on illegal migrants, it misses the elephant, that is legal migration. Vickers was part of a government who ruined this nation by allowing millions in by both routes. Never again. You can answer that.
So legal migration is another route. So illegal migration off the charts. The government was doing things on it. They made mistakes. Had we got Rwanda off the hoof, that would have worked very well. We need to leave the ECHR now and get on with that. When it comes to legal migration, what the government did at its back end was it put in a salary threshold, meaning you had to earn £38,000 to bring somebody to this country. That was the right thing to do. It was axed by this government. It was kicked down the pan. But we also brought in a thing that meant you could only bring a certain number of dependents with you. You can't bring your mum and your dad and your gran and your bucket of vindaloo. You could only bring the actual dependent in your family. And all of a sudden the numbers fell. They virtually halved when we did that. We need to go further. You need that salary threshold in place. The only people that should be coming to this country are those who are willing to contribute and can contribute and pay their way.
Adi calls you crazy conservatives. Good morning, Adi.
Morning, Jeremy. Morning, Matt. This is a question for Matt. It seems a bit rich that you're going on about crazy environmental policies, Matt. When now, what government actually brought in the targets for net zero and made it linked by law through the Supreme Court? Oh, wasn't it Theresa May? Wasn't she a Conservative? And then which government made it even worse and put in crazy, ambitious targets? Now, let me try to remember. Oh, yeah, it was a guy called Boris Johnson, wasn't it? Yeah, another Conservative. It is absolutely bonkers. Anyway, good luck all.
Matt?
Well, do you know what? I would tell you that the last government made mistakes, but I think it's probably a slightly unfair characterisation. Under the last government, we were drilling in the North Sea. We've now got a proposal from Kemi, our new leader, our new party, planning to axe the carbon tax to solve this and reduce people's bills by 20%.
So you would say the carbon tax was a mistake, the last government? That's what we're asking you.
Well, she said we should repeal the Climate Change Act. Yeah, she said we should repeal the Climate Change Act. But actually, not all of it is wrong. It's all about moderation. It's like a diet, yeah?
Yeah.
You should do the green stuff if it adds value, but you shouldn't do it if it costs you everything else. It's like you can't live on lettuce alone. It might be very good for you.
I hate lettuce. I'm not a rabbit. 0344 499 1000. So much you're waking up to and so much to spot. Steve's in Barnsley. Morning, Stevie. Oh. Morning, Steve.
Steve from Barnsley. Morning, Jezza. Now then, I sponsored a donkey in Birmingham and get regular updates about this donkey. I also have recently started to sponsor an elephant. I get a little leaflet with a barcode on. I scan the barcode, takes me to Google Maps, and it shows me where this elephant is. Keeps a track of it. Brilliant. All my taxes go into these illegal immigrants. Do I get a barcode for one of those so I can see what they're up to? Just a wonder. Thank you.
Sorry, what is this about? Is this about migrants? I didn't even listen, no. There you go. Thank you very much indeed, Steve. Jezza, the UK defences on Diego Garcia. This was allegedly attacked over the weekend, although the government took 30 hours to tell us. This caused much anger. Did you know this? This is Adrian Baird, is he? In Buckhurst Hill. He says... the UK defences on Diego Garcia comprise of two 6-inch naval guns installed in 1942. They are found at Cannon Point on the north of the island and were last known to have been operated in 1946. Did you know that to be true? Complete silence. You're not helping me out here, Matt, at all.
Well, I mean, actually, when you look at this situation, we HMS dragging its heels left Portsmouth however late in the day.
Yeah, that's true.
Previously, under the last government, we always had a warship base out there.
For goodness
we
sake.
were always
It's
able to have
going on again.
minesweepers
Andy
in that
on
space.
Diego Garcia, I hope. What's gone on? Where's Cindy? Cindy's gone off my list. I haven't got Cindy anywhere. It's not there. Right, Cindy, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. Good morning, Matt. This is Cindy in Michigan, United States. Keir Starmer's not protecting your country. He doesn't know what he's doing, and he protects the migrants. He just cares about the migrant vote. Get him out. And by the way, coming from this housewife, you and Matt are the real housewives' choice. It's coming from me. I'm a housewife.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 23 minutes to 7 o'clock. Kinsey Schofield with the latest royal update and a tick. I've just been told off by a 26-year-old. Alicia is doing her first ever day of producing the breakfast show. She's basically put me right in my place, hasn't she, Matt?
Absolutely.
He's loving it.
Rightly
as well.
so.
Linda from Worcestershire. Good morning, Linda. I'll tell you why anti-Semitism isn't treated the same as racism against Muslims, Islam, black people, Asian people. Jews are generally seen as white, so as a double whammy, Jews are hated by the left and the Islamists, and they're white. Didn't you know racism against white people isn't possibly able to happen? I've no idea, but I do believe, and I will go on about it, that the Jewish community is treated appallingly, and this is the story you're waking up to. The police have launched an investigation after 4 Hatzolah ambulances belonging to the Jewish community, manned voluntarily by the Jewish community, was set on fire overnight in Golders Green in London. Starmer on the wall, says Bill in Cheshire. He is totally unfit for this sort of crisis. He's a process-driven lawyer who can only act if he has wide support, a written legal case, and the support of all his various interest groups. So he is incapable of making quick decisions as required in modern warfare. War is not a video game. You can't pause everything, go away for a chat and restart the game when it suits you. He is unfit for this role. You'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
I think entirely. He's spineless, absolutely spineless. This requires somebody with steel who has our... In fact, it requires a parliamentary party that has our national interests at its heart. The problem at the moment is their parliamentary party is too concerned about what's going on for certain groups elsewhere in the globe to look at what is in our own national interest and what matters to this country.
I also think he's hamstrung by the Greens' success in Gorton and Denton, because he's basically thinking, how do I get that core left vote back? A vote that concentrates... That this is not disrespectful, this comment. Hannah Spencer won Gorton and Denton by talking about the Muslim community in Gaza. She didn't mention a Green issue. And so, again, he's left in that sort of whole position of not knowing. And everybody knows that the way that you do politics, you will take decisions sometimes that aren't popular, but he doesn't seem to be able to.
His biggest priority is clinging on to his job rather than what this country needs.
He's a dead man walking.
It's all a matter of time. He wants another day, another day. If that means putting our national interest to one side, if that means destroying our relationship with the United States, It all seems quite inconsequential to him at the minute.
Mary's in Canterbury. Jez, Matt, I feel exactly the same as you two. This mind-blowing nonsense in this country. To see those pieces of scum burning the ambulances is disgusting. What have we become as a people when we think it's OK to burn an ambulance? Yeah, and do it because there's anti-Semitism rife in this country. Jez and Matt, Phil in Coventry. Tell Matt, please, I'm fed up and having given up listening to MPs telling us what needs to be done regarding immigration. The Tories betrayed us. This government is betraying us. None of them are going to do anything about it. It's eventually going to be left to the public to sort it out. Phil, we have this discussion every morning with you. I understand your frustration. You can't do that. The public can't take it into their own hands. But you do understand the depth of anger there is in this country. Massive.
It's a huge failing, and it's actually not getting any better. It's getting significantly worse. And the British people are picking up the tab. It's putting pressure on public services, on public finances, on housing. There's only two crowds of people that are doing better at the moment. It's the people who are on welfare, who aren't working, and it's migrants who are arriving in the country and seemingly getting everything for free. It's infuriating.
The Deputy Chairman of the Tory Party just nailed it. The groups of people that are benefiting whilst the rest of us are struggling are illegal migrants and the feckless, not the genuine, sitting on their backsides doing nothing. That's the reality of where we're at. Arson attack. A Golders Green arson attack. Starmer must act on the anti-Semitism that is growing on our streets, but when our notoriously hard-working, benefits-light and well-behaved Jewish citizens complain or protest about it, they will be accused by this government of Islamophobia. Welcome to two-tier justice. That's absolutely right. Starmer created a Muslim czar, didn't he, to make sure there wasn't anti-Muslim hatred?
A horrendous situation. Do you know
what about an anti-Semitism czar?
We have laws in this country that are supposed to prevent discrimination, prevent hatred, prevent hate crimes, but they don't seem to be upheld. We saw it with the hate marches. If people had gone down those streets with the sort of banners they had, abusing Jewish people with other groups on them, I'm sure it would have been dealt with very differently. Instead, we need to get tough on this. We need to stand up. Policing needs to be seamless of faith, seamless of colour, and bear down so that this... But it's worse than that, because it's about our public dialogue. It's about the fact that we allow the BBC to broadcast stuff. We would never allow them to broadcast about other groups' faiths and
the
religion.
BBC, unless I'm wrong, will not be leading with this story about the Jewish ambulances this morning, because that would be not within...
That is a good question. We'd love to see them cover it.
Tell me, because I won't be watching it. Tune in and come back. Is anybody in the BBC talking about this story? Because it's appalling. It's energy prices right now. Yes, that's true. But what about anti-Semitism rife on our streets? Right. We are going to cross to Kinsey Schofield in LA. But before we do, we're going to salute the Americans. Their equivalent, this is great, I'm going to play it all morning. Saturday Night Live is an amazing sort of skit comedy show. And last night, they did a skit. We don't think this was a skit of Keir Starmer in number 10. We think this was actually achieved by tapping into some CCTV cameras. This was liked by Donald Trump and sent to billions. Take it away, Sir Keir.
Oh, golly. Well, what if Donald shouts at me? What do I say, Lammy?
Just be yourself, Prime Minister. Yourself is who everyone likes.
Hello? Oh, sod that scary, scary, wonderful president. Why is he so blubber difficult to talk to?
Sir, just be honest and tell him we can't send any more ships to the Strait of Hormuz.
Oh, crumbs. I just hate conflict so much.
Are you referring to the war or this phone call?
Isn't there a way I can not do both? I just want to keep him happy, Lammy. You don't understand him like I do. I can change him.
It is absolutely amazing. The bigger one is on YouTube. Let's cross to LA. She's had a swig of juice. There she's got a gin and tonic up. Good morning, Kinsey Schofield. I saw you waving the can. How are you?
I'm good. Well, I was just accused of drinking an alcoholic beverage, and I had to confirm that it was bottled water.
Listen, try living in this country. I'd be on the gin about 5 o'clock in the morning. I wouldn't worry about that, my darling. What did you make of the skit on Saturday Night Live about Starmer? That was massive.
Oh, my gosh. If I were this cast, I would be so proud of myself. Yeah. You are already being shared by President Trump, who is just, first of all, he is notoriously funny himself, which, you know, like him or love him, he's made some pretty great jokes in the past. And I just think that they must be on cloud nine. This must be a huge win for them because it was very funny.
It was very funny. Welcome to breakfast. I hope you've had a good weekend. Let's talk royals. Let's talk America, but let's start with the royals. Andrew Mountbatten, well, Andy. Honestly, I was talking to some of the guys from The Sun the other day, and of course everybody's been waiting for that first picture. The last picture was this one, in the back of the car, being driven out of prison, looking slightly dodgy. He went to walk his dog at the weekend, and that's front page news. Seriously, what becomes of this human being? He can't do anything. He can't go anywhere. Nobody wants anything to do with him. I mean, what's the point? I
mean, what becomes of him? I don't think we should be seeing him walking his dogs. I mean, I'm under the impression that he probably doesn't have the help, but these are not the pictures that the King and Prince William want out there when they're trying to do everything in their power to bury this embarrassment. So what becomes of him? I think he just has to shrivel off and disappear, but I don't think that Andrew and Fergie are capable of that. It's my understanding that he's already scheming in foreign countries trying to figure out how he can make a buck and how he could, you know, finance his new lifestyle.
And the same for her. She's been around America hawking her life story. I mean, you know, the duplicity, the lies, and how much this has come back to bite them. You would understand, you know, a lot of people said, Kins, a couple of weeks ago, oh, what about his mental health? What if the guy sees no way out and tries to kill himself? And I'm being completely straight. But everybody just piled in on me and went, now, hold on a second. He's far too egotistical for that. I don't know the bloke, but, you know, he hasn't been apologetic. He doesn't seem to have understood the horrendous nature of I'm going to say a friendship with the most notorious paedophile in the land, in the world, it seems, and no contrition at all.
And some of the other people, like in the States, that now, are they lying? Are the Clintons lying? Is President Trump lying about their relationship with Jeffrey Epstein? I don't know, but they handled it a lot better. I mean, they certainly created much more of a distance than Andrew even, like, Andrew told us he had to go to New York to break up with this friend. We learned later that that was a bold-faced lie, and he continued to communicate with him. But there is a shamelessness about him, a complete lack of regret. And I think that people really resent that. And he's going to continue to be the villain, so he just needs to disappear.
I completely agree, and we had lots of people phoning the show saying, hold on a second, we're talking about a life in exile. He's got a chef, he's got a valet, and he does bugger all day. And I think as times in both countries become harder and harder, I think those who are privileged and behave so appallingly, the light will be shone at them. Lots of other stuff I want to rush through with you. Where do you want to go, Prince William or Meghan Markle? Your pick.
Well, are we not going to acknowledge that Fergie pitched a show where she clones the Queen's dogs?
I don't understand this story at all. What is this story?
My God. I mean, that's such an American reality show, though. I mean, truly, that is such an American reality show. And the idea that she had this relationship with the Queen and that's why she was left with the Queen's corgis. No, the Queen did not. After her last corgi died, she said, I don't want any more corgis because I don't want to outlive my corgis. Then Prince Philip passed away, and Andrew and Fergie forced these puppies on her after she said, I'm a dog mom. I have 4. I would be very upset about the idea of leaving my dogs behind. They were given these dogs back because the Queen specifically instructed them she didn't want these corgis. And now, allegedly, according to The Sun, she is pitching a show where she breeds the corgis. You yourself can have one of the Queen's corgis, or she clones the corgis. And it is just so very American. And I'm proud to be an American. But I really hope that this show doesn't come to fruition.
This will probably make the papers. I don't usually do it. Do you want to hear a story from the old man? Dead, obviously, but 41 years for the Queen Mother as her private secretary, and it involves the corgi. Do you want a story?
Yeah. Yes, tell me.
So he went to 7 or 8 interviews. In those days, they didn't have any money, and they spent the last money they had on a new suit and a new shirt. He went through 7 interviews to start as a junior comptroller in the Royal Household for the Queen Mother in 1960-something. And his final interview, Big M, you'll love this, he was told by the footman, you will go through several doors, they will open outwards, and eventually at door 5 or 6, you will wait, you will open the doors, Her Majesty will be sat down, you will take 2 steps forward, you will bend very low, it's Your Majesty, and after that it's Ma'am, and she will stand up and everything will be great. You're very close to the job. They'd spent the last few quid on his suit. This won't make you laugh, but it made him howl. And he said, I was very, very nervous, and the doors open. I saw Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, 3 or 4 corgis around her feet. He said, I did exactly what the man said. I took 2 steps forward, I bowed low, and one of these bloody corgis took off from the sofa, and how do I tell you this? Started shagging his leg, to be honest, in front of the Queen Mother, in his new suit. He's like that. Get off, get off. I'm trying to bow, and it was awful. He got the job, but that's an absolutely true story from Patrick Carl, no longer with us. One of the Queen Mother's corgis tried to make love to his knee in a new suit.
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, not the only horn dog in the palace, is what I'm taking away from this story.
Oh, good line. That'll make it. Can we also talk, actually, talking about Andrew, just going back, couple of stories this weekend in the papers that both of the princesses' marriages could be slightly rocky. I'm not sure. I think it's Beatrice is married to, what's he called? I can never get his name right. What's he called? Eduardo de Mappelli or whatever.
This is the price you pay when you marry up. When you marry someone hotter than you, you've got to constantly be worried about this. I'm not surprised at all. I feel very little sympathy. That's why I date down. I date ugly, I date broke, I date poor. I'm never worried about the situation, you know? But yeah, I mean, how can these girls, these women, I should say, people get upset when we call them girls because they are women. These women are implicated in the Epstein files too, just in guilt by association, but they, you know, were associating voluntarily with a convicted sex offender, and that is going to cause problems inside your home. When your entire world is flipped upside down, you no longer have the status that you had 3 months ago. Your father's been arrested. It's humiliating, and everybody is being looked at differently, judged, followed around with cameras. People are pulling out their cell phones, and that's going to create a lot of animosity. Beatrice is married to the Italian. He's very suave and looks like James Bond. She doesn't look like a Bond girl. Eugenie is married to Jack Brushank, who has very good links and family. And they're saying, the papers this weekend, for the very reason that you just said, that both girls' relationships are under pressure. Now, we can't do anything, despite the story about the royal corgi making love to my father's knee. We can't do a whole part without asking you. Exciting news. Meghan Markle, superstar, ex-Duchess, heading down under. I mean, it won't be the first time she's gone down under, but can you tell us more? Yeah, that's a 90210 reference. And if you're a Meghan Markle fan, if you know, you know. Yeah, she's filed some trademarks because she's going to try to launch her lifestyle company in Australia as well. Australia was a great, you know, a great audience for Meghan in 2018 when she walked around and whispered to courtiers, I can't believe I'm not getting paid for this, for just, you know, politely engaging with the people that had waited hours outside to see her. The polling as of late, I mean, I think I just did an article with Yahoo Australia, and 90% of the people that replied, which was over 100, said they did not want Harry and Meghan to come to Australia. If you look at just YouGov, general YouGov polling, they poll close to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Well, I was going to say it's the same thing, isn't it? Both of you, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, Fergie, Harry and Meghan, wake up and realise the public, not just the British public, most of the global public are done with your lies and done with your duplicity and don't want to know, right? Yeah, and I mean, I think both couples are very similar. I think they'll do anything for a buck, and I think that they jeopardize the British royal family, and I wish that King Charles would strip Harry and Meghan of their titles sooner than later, and I think it's a cowardly act to force Prince William to do that once he ascends to the throne. So hopefully we actually see that from King Charles, because that would be an act of leadership, and I think it would ensure the protection of the royal family going forward. Couldn't agree more. I love having you on. Thank you for drinking gin, talking about corgis that make love to... Well, it wasn't gin. It's not gin. Water. It's water. My name's Kinsey and I drink water. I love you. Thanks so much. Have a lovely day. Bless her. Kinsey Schofield, live and exclusive Talk Breakfast. We're back in 3.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle from Suits. That's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beard, and I feel
raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just 3 minutes left on the pay-per-view. Matt Vickers is here. I want to touch upon a story that for many would be contentious, but there's a reason. A Tory peer, Lord Sewell, was asked, I think, by this government to report on, a race report as to what's happening. And shockingly, he's going to tell Keir Starmer this week, not shockingly, that Britain is failing white working-class boys. He calls for urgent action on education opportunity. In our quest, is he saying, to be diverse and give everybody the opportunity, we've gone the other way.
Well, this is an utter failure of our state and of our society, that we are letting down working class white, but we're obsessed. I've never seen any positive discrimination, any quotas that featured any need to give opportunities to working class white boys. Yeah, what we're seeing is an education system that's letting them down. This country, the thing that makes Britain great is that it should be a sort of place where you grow up, and no matter where you come from, yes, you should be able to get to wherever you want to be. You should have the opportunities that if you work hard, you do the right thing, you can achieve it. But actually what this system is letting down, what Britain is letting down, is white working class boys in communities across the country.
Somebody said to me
obsessed with quotas.
Somebody said to me in a very high-ranking business that I won't go into that, if you're 25 and you're middle class and you're white, you've got a degree, you're at the back of the queue. I'm with you, and actually I'm very with Donald Trump on this. One of the things that he said when he was standing for re-election was, this is now going to be on ability. This is going to be on work ethic, ability, nous, and the fact that you're not on the colour of your skin or your disability or whatever. And people won't like that conversation, but it's a really important question. I'm all for to a degree. I'm all for giving everybody the opportunity. But if you go the other way, what are you saying? It's like the migrant situation.
We're saying about middle-class white people struggling, being at the back of the queue because they happen to be white blokes. Actually, if you're a working-class kid growing up in this country, you don't have the sort of contacts that other people... You don't even get in the queue. You don't even get the interview. You don't even get that opportunity because you don't understand the code. You need to get through the door. Actually, we need to be doing more to put that ladder down, adding a rung so that no matter where you come from, you can get to the top.
It's like bitterness there, as you came from nothing, didn't you?
Up north, yeah.
No, but it's true. It is absolutely true. You are absolutely right when you say this country is built on opportunity and being able to start at the bottom. And if you now do all of that and you get nowhere because of the colour of your skin or because you're not part of a group, that's not right,
well, it's about, I mean, I often say about business doesn't want help from government. It just wants it to get out of the way. If everybody gets out of the way with the quotas and all of their garbage and just lets people who work hard climb the ladder and get on and takes all of the other bits out, these kids can succeed. But actually we're too obsessed with helping certain groups and certain minorities to allow everybody to have that level playing field.
We love him. He's back next week. Matt Vickers, the news at 7 is next.
Hello from Crowborough, where the local residents are enraged with what has happened to their community merely overnight when just 27 single male asylum seeker illegal migrants were bussed into their military training camp. Behind me are local residents, people from all over the country. Shabana Mahmood has said that this is an effective way of getting rid of those expensive, flashy asylum hotels. But unfortunately, these people are still placed within the community.
Whole town is very afraid because these are unvetted men from countries that are, the government warned us not to go to. I've got an 18-year-old daughter and she gets the bus opposite camp. Do you feel safe for her? No, so that will have to stop. Right. We'll either have to wait with her or take her to wherever she needs to go.
The reason I'm here today is because I live in Crowborough and my family, I've got a wife and children, and just worried about, my wife walking to work and my sons, walking about. Anything can happen. Kind of that nowadays, Nigel, what's going on, what's happening in this country. So I'm just concerned and frightened, you know.
There was support from other towns, other communities, because of course Shabana Mahmood has threatened other communities, and she said they're going to open site after site after site. Well, I would hope that if she's going to try and do that, she learns some lessons about the way she's done it in Crowborough, because this is not finished. We are not finished objecting to this plan.
Crowborough says no! Crowborough says no! Crowborough says no!
We would urge her to reconsider, and whatever she does, she needs to talk to the people that she's imposing these things on.
If you had a direct line to Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood, what would you say to them?
Look after your most vulnerable first. It's your priority to look after your vulnerable.
If they're bringing illegal immigrants into a camp in the dead of night, why are they doing that? They're doing that because it's disingenuous, it's dishonest, it's covert, and they're trying to keep the reality away from the local community of what they're actually doing to us. We've now got to the end of the entrance to the camp, we've got cameras, we've got police drones. It's like a cloud that's come over this community.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back or welcome along. Just gone 7 o'clock. It is Monday, March the 23rd. We're live across the UK with Talk. It's the home of common sense and the home of alarm clock Brits. Whatever you're doing this morning, you're on the way, you're in the queue, you're on the way back from the night shift, you can't get the kids to get up. Did that all weekend. 0344 499 1000. Big news here. Christian, he's off. He's got the poops. I'm not messing. And I have to say, what a fantastic first hour she's done. Alicia is running the show today. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. You can get your voice notes in. What are you waking up to? All sorts of news. The two stories that have grabbed your imagination, and quite rightly too. Police have, in the last few hours, launched an investigation after 4 Hatzalah ambulances belonging to the Jewish community and, can I say, manned by volunteers from the Jewish community, was set on fire overnight in Golders Green in London. Appalling footage you can see there. We've made a decision. We've dragged Samara out of bed. Samara Gill, our roving reporter, is going to head down to Golders Green and bring us a report before the end of the show. The police are saying this is an anti-Semitic hate crime. It is utterly... I sit here and I think to myself, and I've said it too many times, all racism is abhorrent, but quite how we now live in a country where anti-Semitism is allowed to continue and people do nothing about it. We have what was it the government came up with? And I'm against all racism. They came up with a Muslim czar for people who are racist towards that community. What about the Jews? Look at that. Ambulances, right? Ambulances, man. And by the way, Louise in Ipswich, you're right. And I said it already. This isn't just for the Jewish community. These people man these ambulances for the whole community, right? To help the whole community. Set on fire by anti-Jewish hatred. Utterly disgusting. Lots of in the news about immigration today. Shabana Mahmood says, I'm gonna power ahead. I want to detain these people and deport these people. I'm going to be strong. The rest of the Labour Party going, oh, no, you can't do that. Hold on. They're refugees. They deserve rights, you horrible woman. The French are up in arms because their £500 million a year deal where they do absolutely nothing but just stand and watch people get on boats and come to England. That's up for grabs as well. Loads as well about this Tory peer, Lord Sewell, who was tasked by the government in a race report. Let's look at what's going on, they said, with the unfairness. Actually, he's come back and said that Britain is failing white working class boys. This landmark report calls for urgent action on education and opportunity, and says that so obsessed is this government and this country now with quotas and doing the right thing that average middle class white boys are being put at the back of the queue. And as somebody said to me, that rather feels how we are as working class alarm clock Brits, because we feel like we do everything correct and all we do is end up being kicked in the bits. Morning, David.
Morning, Jeremy. Damon from Wigan. Why is Matt and other politicians talking about leaving the ECHR? We know that it would take years to leave the ECHR. And the other thing is we've got to get round all the civil servants, because the civil servants will do everything they can to stop this from going ahead. There is no will to stop us leaving the ECHR. So when a minister is going to get a grip on this and say it is happening, whether you like it or not, because Brussels, so civil service, people with no willing to do it will take over, and it will never happen. We keep being told we're going to leave, but I can't see we'll ever leave the ECHR. Thank you.
David, all I can say to you is I understand your frustration, and I'm sure there are people that listen and watch this station and think, well, yeah, you can keep saying about the ECHR. You talk about will. There has to be. There has to be. What I admire most about the British people, there's many things I admire, but what I love most is they're like a dog with a bone and they won't let go. The silent majority in this country now know, right? Whether Reform said it first and the Tories are now on board, or the Tories said, I don't know. I don't care, right? What I care about is the fact that this ridiculous piece of legislation is out of date. It is not fit for purpose. I don't fall for the BS anymore that, oh, you know, Winston Churchill would... I don't give a damn. The world's changed and we need to put people in this country first. We're delighted to say very good morning. Chief Political Writer of the excellent Spiked Online, Brendan O'Neill, how are you?
Hi, Jeremy, I'm good, thank you.
Somebody told me you've got your own show, is that right? You've never asked me and I'm quite offended.
I need to correct that. I do. I have a podcast every week. Yeah. I'll get you on.
Never invited people. I think it's because you can't afford me. Brendan, welcome, mate. I'm going to start with a story the BBC haven't run yet. They're talking about illegal migration. That's true. Let's talk about anti-Semitism, rife on the streets of the United Kingdom. And last night, 4 Hatzolah ambulances. And I just want to say this to people waking up. They belong to the Jewish community. They are manned by volunteers, but they are for the whole community. Were set on fire in Golders Green, a Jewish enclave in North London, and the police say it is an anti-Semitic hate crime. Brendan, how have we got to this, my friends? Disgusting.
I felt sick when I read about this morning, and when I saw those images, I mean, it looks like a war zone to see those huge flames going up, and there were a few small explosions as well around the ambulances. Absolutely horrific. You know, we have to speak plainly. This is an act of fascist savagery. This looks like a direct assault on a peaceful Jewish community in London to demonize them, to intimidate them, to make them feel unwelcome. That seems to be what we're witnessing here. And I want to know if all those politicians who spent the past week attacking Nick Timothy because he criticized mass Muslim praying, are they going to speak about this? Are they going to go on the airwaves and condemn this? Are they going to write articles about this? Because one of the problems with anti-Semitism in this country is that the political establishment has failed to take it seriously. The government, the media elite, all of them, they have turned a blind eye as anti-Semitism has soared out of control.
Why is that, though? You're intelligent. I come out with the same line the whole time. You know more about it than me. This government's created an anti-Islamophobia Muslims are. I'm fine with that. I don't agree with racism, right? But how imbalanced is that? I don't understand. Forget Starmer for a minute. His wife's Jewish. I don't understand many things right now. I don't understand why there's no rape gang inquiry. Oh, yes, I do, because it might upset a certain part of this country. I don't understand how anti-Semitism is allowed to prevail. Oh, I know. It's because it would upset a certain community. That's not good enough for me. That is gratuitous violence, that is hatred, and that is a hate crime. You get called out by the police and this government if you write something they disagree with, but you can firebomb a Jewish ambulance to get away with it. How does that make sense?
It's sickening. And, you know, this hasn't come out of nowhere. As you say, this did not come out of the blue, this attack on these ambulances. This follows 2.5 years of hate marches every single weekend where people on the streets told us that the Jewish nation is the most evil nation. This follows a simmering culture of anti-Semitism, some of it coming from the left, some of it coming from sections of the Muslim community. This follows the attack, of course, on the synagogue in Manchester where 2 Jews were killed last October. This has been gathering pace for some time, and the so-called anti-racists on the left and in government circles, they look the other way because they would much rather hold forth in that very virtuous fashion over Islamophobia, you know, when people disrespect the Quran or make a joke about Muhammad, than they would to talk seriously about the attacks on Jews that are taking place in this country. They are betraying our Jewish compatriots, and that's disgusting.
If you're watching on YouTube now, you can see 3 men running towards an ambulance that's parked, setting fire to it and then running away. It's all on CCTV. It's utterly, utterly disgusting. Yeah, I mean, Alicia brought this to me first thing this morning. We've actually decided to send Samara Gill, our roving reporter, down to Golders Green with a camera crew and try and get some reaction from the local community. We'll bring that to you before the end of the show. To me, that's a stain. That's a stain on who we are, as much as not having a rape gang inquiry is a stain on who we are. I don't understand how these things can have a blind eye turn to them. It doesn't sit with me, actually, generally not shouting for once. It actually sickens me to my stomach that this is allowed to happen.
You know, Jeremy, like you, I hate all forms of racism, and I think we should stand up to all of them.
Yeah.
But history tells us that anti-Semitism is a little bit different, because anti-Semitism, once a society has the sickness of anti-Semitism, that tells you something more broadly about that society. It tells you that it is losing its way, it is betraying its values and its virtues, it is turning its back on one of its own communities. We know from history that when anti-Semitism sweeps through a society, that society is in deep trouble. And I think that's what we're seeing in Britain now. And the failure of the supposedly virtuous, polite society to get a handle on this, that's the real indictment of Britain in 2026.
It frightens me. Let's get a quick voice note. Jay, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Great show as always. Regarding the arson attack on the Jewish ambulances, I'm looking forward to Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, which means he represents every faith, every person, this great community, London, he keeps saying about. I'm waiting for him to come out, condemning it and saying they will feel the full force of the law, and he will back any prosecution against the people or persons that's done this. So let's wait for that to happen, and I'm waiting for Starmer to do the same. Because again, the Jewish community keep getting attacked. And if you're Jewish and listening to this, I just want you to know the British people think you're fantastic, and we will win in the end. Okay, don't run away. We will win. We'll fight this together.
Do you know why I played that voice note? Right, Brendan, I was at an airport the other day and there was a traditional Jewish couple. And I literally said, I went up to him and I said, sorry to bother you, I just want to say sorry. And he said, thank you so much, and grasped my hand. Genuinely, it was just at a carousel, because I'm just embarrassed, man, that a country, that a religion that was treated the way it was, right, and rebuilt itself. I still always tell the same story, but somebody once telling me that, you know, when you're 12 or 13, your parents tell you about the facts of life. If you're Jewish, your parents sit you down and tell you about your ancestry and how 6 million people that, you know, were related to you were gassed simply because somebody didn't like the religion that you followed. And I have great admiration for the Jewish community, and I will continue to these stories because I think it is utterly disgusting. And he's dead right. Sadiq Khan will say bugger all. It's not on the BBC, by the way. They haven't even mentioned it this morning on the newspaper. Of course they haven't. Nowhere to be seen on the BBC, Brendan. Nowhere.
You know, what a nice message that was, that voicemail, which I think is a measure of the calibre of your listeners, Jeremy, and of alarm clock Brits more broadly. There is, you know, you and I remind ourselves quite frequently, there is a decent majority out there. There is a well of common sense in this country that is too often untapped, full of normal people who are absolutely sickened by the scenes in Golders Greens and actually stand with the Jews against radical Islamists and against the left. So it's good to remind ourselves of that. You know, I actually think Sadiq Khan will say something on this. He'll have to. But I just think that won't be enough. And we should say to him, well, why have you let the hatred grow in London over the past 2.5 years? Why didn't you treat it with the seriousness that it deserves? So even if he does say something, and I expect he probably will, we've got to hold his feet to the fire and say, Sadiq, you let this happen on your watch and you need to answer for it.
Let's talk about immigration quickly if we can. Shabana Mahmood is in severe danger of being thrown to the wolves, I imagine, as Angela Rayner and Andy Burnham gain control of the party after May. She says, I'm ramping up my migration clampdown. She says plans are on the table to deport thousands before they can appeal. The weather's obviously getting better. She says we need to deal with it. Many on the left, in fact, not just on the left, are saying, nah, you can't do that. These are refugees. We saw some appalling images over the weekend, people walking on a beach, just walking to the boats, wading out to the boats, and the gendarme just having a cigarette watching them. We're paying them 500 million quid a year. I'm not sticking up for Shabana Mahmood, but she's in a hideous position. Her hands are tied. She won't be able to do what she probably believes needs to be done, and will be another one that falls by the by. A lot of people, there was a voice note earlier from somebody saying, nobody's got the will. Somebody somewhere has to be the politician that's got the will to deal with this, because unless they do, I don't know what happens. Everywhere I go, people say the same thing to me. How is this allowed to take place in this country? They say it to me the whole time.
That's the question. Why is this happening? How has it come to be seen as outrageous to send people home? Countries have always done that. Independent nations have always said to people, you can come and work for a period of time. Now you need to go home.
Yeah.
Or they've said, you came here illegally, so you need to leave immediately. That's what countries have done since the beginning of nation states. Somehow it's now come to be seen as racist and maybe even a bit fascist for a government to propose that very thing. It is psychotic. You know, I think Shabana Mahmood, I think her heart is in the right place.
Yeah, me.
You often see racist lefties saying, well, she's betraying her own people and she's betraying her immigrant heritage. I'm sorry, but some of the people who are most critical about out-of-control immigration are people who are descended from legal migrants, because they don't want these people coming into the country willy-nilly. They don't want ordinary Brits to turn against immigration where it might be necessary. So it makes perfect sense to me that she is worried, that she's trying to do something. But of course, she's hampered by her own pathetic party and by the ECHR and all these other international treaties that we're signed up to. So she might have the will to do it, but we have all this infrastructure getting in the way of a government doing what needs to be done.
I mean, I'm with you. I think that there has to be the will. We have to have this debate. 10 years ago, you couldn't mention the word immigration without being called racist. The other thing I want to talk to you about is another, seriously, this. I mean, there's a couple of stories today that really sort of sicken you to the stomach. I remember Donald Trump standing up when he was about to be re-elected the second time saying, from now on, you know, this country is not going to be about you get a job or you get an interview, you get an opportunity if you're disabled or the colour of your skin or your religion or your creed or whatever. It's going to be on ability. It's going to be on value. A Tory peer, Lord Sewell, it's in the news today, who was asked by the government to create a landmark wide-ranging race report, has dumped totally on Starmer, or will do this week. This is going to be interesting to see how they worm their way out of this, because his number one take from it is that Britain is failing white working-class boys, saying that it needs urgent action and education opportunity. I'm going to tell a story now. It's an absolutely known story. I've told it before on the show. A friend of mine's partner, one of her daughter's boyfriends, A-star student, semi-professional rugby player, 6'4", fantastic, middle-class family, came out with a first-class honours degree, wanted to get a trainee job in the city. This is genuinely true, peeps. And my wife's listening, and she'll know that we were told this about that. What? He sent 200 CVs away over a 12-month period and never got one response. A mate of his one night in the pub said, this is what you need to do. He changed his pronouns. Wow. And he got 4 job interviews within a month. It's absolutely ridiculous, man. If that is where we've got to, good for Lord Sewell. Good for Lord Sewell.
Oh, good for Lord Sewell is one of the few sensible people still around in the political establishment in this country, because he's done quite a few reports over the years, just calling into question the myth of institutional racism and looking at how certain constituencies in this country, including young white kids, are losing out as a consequence of the DEI hysteria and this kind of obsession with institutionalizing diversity, which often means giving an extra hand up to people from ethnic minorities, which is not fair. What we should be doing is ensuring that every young person in this country has the same opportunities. Yeah. And if they've got the skill and the aptitude, then they should succeed. That's what we need. But we've created this hyper-racial system where there's preferential treatment if you come from one of the minority communities, but you are left behind. If you're a white working class boy in particular, you're left behind at school, you're left behind at university, the job market's not interested. It's a real betrayal, and I'm so glad Lord Sewell is speaking out.
Yeah, I think it's a really important thing to do, and it goes back to that sort of, when you start, you'll know this from your podcast that you're going to invite me on, and I'm joking anyway, but I will do it. But the people will say, or would have said 5 years ago, oh, you can't, how can you say that? But it is fundamentally wrong. This is not this report saying that people of other religions or other ethnicities should not get... Of course, but you've gone the other way. It's like so much in this country. The immigration thing is another example. Crime is another example. We seem to me to have gone so far in the opposite direction that anybody who's not broken the law, who's here legally, who has got some qualifications, is going to miss out, while this obsession with making it as easy as possible for anybody who should not basically get away with it. I mean, I just think that's why we're at a seminal moment in my mind. It's just another example of unfairness. I think that word's really important, Brendan, unfairness.
Yeah, and the immigration issue sums it up perfectly, because as you know very well, Jeremy, there are people who can arrive in this country today on a boat illegally from Eritrea or Sudan or somewhere else, they will instantly have the right to stay in a hotel, to have 3 meals a day. They will get medical appointments. They will get dental appointments. They will get all the things that the ordinary Brit actually doesn't have the right.
Absolutely.
If the ordinary Brit was down on their luck and said to the government, please give me a hotel and 3 meals a day and a taxi to the dentist, the government would laugh in his face. So this is profoundly unfair, profoundly unjust, and that's what ordinary people are feeling right now.
It's great to have you on, mate. I love our little chats. We thank you very much as ever. Go online and chat out Spike. Brilliant, brilliant work as well. Thank you, Brendan O'Neill. What is it, 7:21? We're live across the UK. Talk Breakfast is on. You're waking up to those 3 main stories. A disgusting scene overnight. 4 Hadsola ambulances belonging to the Jewish community in Golders Green in London set on fire by mobs, by arsonists. The attack is being treated. You could see the pictures there of masked men setting fire to ambulances. Let me tell you about these ambulances. These are manned voluntarily by the local community, not just for Jews, but for everybody. That's how good that community is. They were set fire to. The arson attack, the police say, is an anti-Semitic hate crime. Nothing yet from the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. Of course not. Nothing from the Prime Minister. Of course not. Nothing on the BBC. Of course not. But we sent Samara Gill down to that location to see what the local community think. 0344 499 1000. Morning, Mick.
Morning, Jez. Mick from Staffordshire. Now all the prices have gone up, I've been telling the kids, don't put the heating on, don't spend 20 minutes in showers. I'm just wondering if the government have put any caps on paying the heating bills for these hotels, or can they just keep the windows open when it gets too hot? The heating's on all day. They have endless supplies of energy and food, all things that we who live here normally can't have. They don't seem to cap anything. Anyway, great show, Jez. Keep it going. More from Kinsey, though.
Good morning to you. This is Tour the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Just breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation. And certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files was released in the last few weeks. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 7:25. Amy Tarkanian live from America in a Tick. Damon from Wigan. Good morning, Jess. So an MP is going to tell the British Prime Minister the British boys are being left behind, but all the British people are being left behind as well because the governments don't care about us and seem to put non-British people ahead of us at the same time. Why is our government treating us like this? Surely it is an utter disgrace. Couldn't agree more. Jack in Gravesend, Starmer might want to join Reform soon. He might gain some popularity. I can't see that happening. John and Angus, I haven't heard anybody say, although they probably have, we paid 20% tax on our fuel, so if the price goes up, she makes more money. So why does she need to take another 5%? We were talking about that earlier. You're absolutely right. You'd want your Chancellor, Rachel Thieves, right now to be giving something back. Petrol prices going through the roof, oil prices going through the roof. So we had a woman on Friday who could not afford to drive to work. What does that say? The whole thing is utterly, utterly wrong. Sean in Gloucester, Donald Trump is singling out Keith Stalin because he dithers over everything. Can't make a decision and will not maintain a stance on anything. He always has to ask the crazy bacon butty muncher Milliprat and the rest of his ridiculous cabinet. Trump respects strength and our idiotic PM has none whatsoever. I'm going to do it again because people join the show the whole time, and Amy Tarkanian is standing by in Nevada. I want to play this to her. This was on Saturday Night Live, ladies and gentlemen, the biggest comedy show in the United States, and immediately got reposted by the Donald on Truth Social. This is what America thinks of Keir Starmer. This is brilliant. Take it away.
Oh, golly. Well, what if Donald shouts at me? What do I say, Lammy?
Just be yourself, Prime Minister. Yourself is who everyone likes.
Hello? Oh, sod that scary, scary, wonderful president. Why is he so blubber difficult to talk to?
Sir, just be honest and tell him we can't send any more ships to the Strait of Hormuz.
Oh, crumbs. I just hate conflict so much.
Are you referring to the war or this phone call?
Isn't there a way I can not do both? I just want to keep him happy, Lammy. You don't understand him like I do. I can change him.
That was on Saturday Night Live. A very good morning to Amy Tarkanian, Republican strategist in Nevada. Is that what America thinks of our useless Prime Minister?
That's the first time I've actually seen that clip. I missed that whole one, so I'm gonna have to go back and watch it. Well, sadly, yes. We do have a president who doesn't actually just announce a red line. He doesn't blur a red line. He stands on them and then he follows through, and he follows through aggressively and hard. And so we're now at a pivoting moment in this war where he's given an ultimatum within 48 hours, and that's coming up this evening at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And if you've got somebody such as the Prime Minister who's still waffling on which side he's wanting to be on in history, he's going to have, sadly, more of those segments done on him.
It's really interesting for me because, and I don't know anything, this is probably a guess. I imagine that Donald Trump is the sort of person that even if he disagrees with you, if you stand by what you believe, begrudgingly he'd respect you. The problem with Starmer, and by the way, you should know that 70% of people in this country didn't want Britain to join that initial aggression against Iran. I wasn't one of them. I think we should have done. I think our oldest ally thing is really important. But I take that other people have a different view. The problem with what Starmer does, which is why Trump has such a problem with him, is he dithers and he dallies and he flips and he flops, and everybody knows that. 1 minute, I mean, this attack over the weekend, I don't know if you saw this, allegedly reports of a strike linked to Iran on Diego Garcia over the weekend. This is the joint military base that's caused so much debate. But the public wasn't informed here, Amy, for 30 hours. And then we discover that, oh, it happened, and now they are going to use the bases. And I think for us, I think Starmer, there's no clear, we don't understand. I know Trump goes about as consistent as chocolate, but Starmer is, the great thing about that clip is, oh, I'm scared of him. I want to impress him. Oh, my God, what am I going to do? It's awful. I don't think, people say to me that the special relationship will supersede two men, and I'm sure it will, but it can't be any worse right now than it's got to be worse than it's ever been, hasn't it?
Yes, and it's unfortunate because, as I mentioned, we're at a pivoting point. And so when you have allies who are trying to walk a tightrope and still, play both sides to some extent, saying, hey, we support you, but we only support you from a distance, tell us how it is, send us a postcard. That's not going to come out well in the end. And you can't depend upon allies who are wishy-washy. And that's going to be a problem. Now, that doesn't mean that we need, 100% full military involvement from the UK.
Consistency is what you'd like
exactly.
from the UK.
It is nice to know exactly where you do stand and what you are going to bring to the table. So that way we can strategize and move forward.
Love to get your view on this. We read so much about Trump and we see the ups and the downs. I think late Friday he was saying this war is coming to an end. Late Saturday saying I'm going to obliterate the Straits of Hormuz, their plants. He came to power in America, let's do this fairly and in a balanced way, promising no war in the Middle East and a greater economy, neither of which has materialised. Are the public turning against Donald Trump in America?
Well, you mentioned 70% of UK citizens are unhappy with this war. And I will say that Americans also woke up to shock. Historically, you have presidents who will at least address a nation to try to get in some buy-in to what's about to take place and why it's important. And that did not happen this go around. And so we finally heard President Trump for the first time a few days ago when he was discussing the possible visit with China now being put on the back burner because of a war. He finally used the word, we are in a war. And I think, obviously we're not dumb. We know that from the get-go that we've been in a war. And this is something that is unfortunately going to take some time. This is not a quick fix. He has come in strong with Israel. And they are both being extremely aggressive. They are both coordinating, maybe slightly different strategy-wise, but the end is to eliminate, and it is to do economic harm to a genocidal nation. And
I get that, but
this is something that's not going to end quickly.
Well, there's the point. There's the line, isn't it? Because he made a big thing about there won't be any boots on the ground. We'll change the regime from the sky. And the reason there is frustration, the reason, say, in this country where people will go, actually, maybe this Labour government has got something right. It's not my opinion, but everybody is actually that Donald Trump. The Iranian regime hasn't crumbled. The people haven't risen up. And actually, is it going to be, Amy, another... God, you know how much I love America. Is it going to be another Vietnam or Afghanistan? That's the criticism, right?
Sure, and we certainly hope not. And so now you have the Iranian, Ayatollahs that they're saying that they're going to retaliate even harder if we do come in and take over the Strait of Hormuz, like the president is threatening. And so we are looking at, major economic turmoil. And even though we woke up in shock, we were not thrilled. We're not happy that we are in a war, as you mentioned. He was elected on No More Wars. We do realize as well, though, that this has been going on for decades, and it is a bit of a breath of fresh air to know that we finally have some movement on this in the right direction. But I just feel that the entire way of going about it was not done well to smooth over the public's concerns. And so really, if this is something that's going to go on for decades and we're going to send troops on the ground, that's what you need to listen for. That's going to be the key. If you hear that we are sending troops on the ground, then we know that we're going to be there for quite some time.
So it's great to have you on. We really appreciate it. What time is it in Nevada? About midnight?
It's, I think, a little over 12:30 a.m.
Bless you.
Yeah.
So kind of you coming on. Thank you, Amy Tarkanian, Republican strategist. In a tick, by the way, he says coughing. Sean Bell, former fighter pilot, now military analyst, will bring you up to date exactly where we are with, and this is really important, day 24, which is unbelievable, day 24 of this war. 25 minutes to 8 o'clock, you're waking up. It's a pretty horrendous story, this. Pretty is the wrong word. I can't believe that the state broadcaster hasn't even mentioned this morning. Overnight, police have launched, you're seeing screen pictures there, an investigation after Farage ambulances in Golders Green were set on fire. The police are calling an anti-Semitic hate crime. And can I point out that those ambulances are provided for the local community by the Jewish community, voluntary. They've been set fire to. It is utterly disgraceful. Not a word from Sadiq Khan, not a word from Keir Starmer. We sent, he said Shabana Mahmood, Samara Gill down there with a camera crew to get a reaction from the local community. But it begs the question again, anti-Semitism. Keir Starmer, Sadiq Khan, do you not care? It's all right, is it to set fire to Jewish ambulances? Where's your anti-Semitism czar? It's absolutely outrageous. Wayne, good morning.
Good morning, Jezza. So I watched the skit that Trump reposted. Amazing, mate. I mean, not a truer word could have been said. And just the ability to capture the essence of how we feel in this country coming from across the pond. And the President of the United States trolling our PM. I mean, it is just a piece of art. It really is a piece of art. For all the wrong reasons, of course. And also these Jewish ambulances that are set on fire. I'm looking forward to today's press conference from Keir Starmer, where he's going to stand out and he's going to say these far-left fascists, there's no place for this in the UK, and how swift justice in full force of the law is going to be placed on them. And he expects to see them caught and sent to court and prisoned within 2 weeks. Oh, no. That's only allowed for the far right, isn't it? Silly me. We don't live in a fair world in this country. Great, everybody.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 22 minutes to 8 o'clock. We're live across the UK. This is Talk Breakfast on the home of common sense and the home of Alarm Clock Brits. Whatever you're doing, you're waking up to loads of stories. The latest on the Iran situation with Sean Bell, military analyst in a tick. You're waking up to the news that, well, 4 voluntary ambulances, Hatzalah ambulances in Golders Green, set fire overnight by anti-Semitic hate crime mobs. So far, nothing has been done. Nothing by... It was utterly just... So many people responding. It's got to be careful. Martin, our government let the Jews be attacked, but they support the IRGC and the Muslim Brotherhood. These ambulances being set on fire is absolutely disgusting. They find these people. They should be in jail for life. But our government will do nothing. Our Prime Minister is a complete and absolute... I cannot believe what I am seeing. Jews being attacked every single day. I am embarrassed by the way that we treat the Jewish community. Tracy, the fire on the Jewish community's ambulance is despicable. The hatred towards the Jewish community is out of control. The government gave the Muslim community 17 million for security when the riots happened, yet they're the only ones who don't seem to need protection. Anti-Semitism and Anglophobia is rife in our country. Andy from Liverpool, that big fire in the Jewish community in Golders Green is disgusting. Yeah, interesting. He's not very complimentary. Ben. So after normal white British being blanded far right and fascist by Starmer on the left, we have the left being fascist, racist, terrorist. But I bet they won't be called out. Rachel in North Yorkshire. These people have been emboldened by this government who have failed completely to stop this hatred and woefully failed the Jewish community and the rest of us decent, law-abiding citizens who are thoroughly sick of having to put up with it. I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much indeed, by the way. We'll get all of those out. 0344 499 1000. Thank you, G-Spot. 20 minutes to 8 o'clock. Let's go to Sean Bell, former fighter pilot. I watch him. He does his bit. Yeah, I've watched you do this analysis on Sky. You're like that bloke with the swingometer when they used to have the elections, Mr. Bell.
Morning, Jeremy. How the devil are you, sir?
Always good to speak to you, dear boy. What I love about talking to you about this is really where we're at without just to get an understanding. So one or two people, well, loads, asking me to ask you this. Over the weekend, we heard reports of a strike linked to Iran on a Diego Garcia base had emerged. It took the government 30 hours to say that. I'm not interested about questions about why it took so long. Did it happen, Sean? And should people be concerned about other reports that are saying that there are missiles that could reach the UK? You're the expert.
Yeah, well, first of all, obviously, I'm not based at Diego Garcia, but the cross-referencing various reports I get, it does appear that 2 ballistic missiles were fired towards Diego Garcia. One, it appeared, broke up before it even got to Diego Garcia, and the other one was struck by an Aegis missile, which is one of the air defense missiles, fearsomely expensive, very, very capable, and by all accounts, no reports of any debris or damage on the ground. Although I have to say, given that Americans dominate that base, you know, it might well be that there was something hit the ground, but we just never heard about it. It's worth reporting there's only about 50 British service personnel there. There's about 5,000 US military. In terms of the worry about the ranges, I think that was the most profound message that came out. You know, but before the war, if you'd read Wikipedia, you'd know that, you know, Iran's missiles could go about 2,000 miles. Well, Diego Garcia is well over 2,500. And one of the things that we have been reporting is it's all very well reading what it says in the newspapers, these range of the missiles, but I know that when I was in the military, Iran was trying to develop missiles that get all the way to the US, and therefore it's no surprises they have the ability to go further than 2,000 miles. The question is just how far, and the question therefore obviously arises, could they get as far as the UK? Eventually the answer will be yes. If it's not the answer, yes today.
Overnight, the clock is ticking. Trump, who on Friday said, I want to get out, on Saturday said to Iran, issues a deadline of tonight to reopen the Straits of Hormuz. We know, all of us know, that waterway is so essential to global trade. Oil, petrol going through the roof already. There were conversations last night, apparently, him and Starmer. We don't have boats. That's not happening. But I'm not going to ask you whether you believe he will do this, but the Straits of Hormuz, you would expect, would you not, some of the rest of the world, potentially some of those countries in the Middle East, to not be helping Trump, but be doing right by themselves and right by the global economy and trying to open this again?
Yeah, Jeremy, I mean, I think the problem here is that there's no easy military solution to open the Straits of Hormuz. Let's be quite clear. Although Iran doesn't have a credible military to fight the might of a superpower like the United States. When I used to war game this sort of stuff when I was in the MOD, I've played Iran in these war games. You know you're going to get pummeled militarily. You know that you're probably going to still have your Shahed drones because you can hide them away. The leadership's going to be in place. You're going to have your proxies. But the most important thing is you're going to have your foot on the throat of the international community by controlling the Straits. And therefore, having things like anti-ship missiles, drones, mines and fast patrol boats hidden away, they've had 35 years to prepare for this moment. And frankly, we will not be able to solve this through military means. It's going to have to be diplomatic. Once America finishes whatever it's doing, eventually the international community will have to start just talking to Iran and be creating a reasonable conversation to finally get that open.
Do you, as a military man, believe the reports, and this isn't in newspapers, I've heard this, that Iran's ability to withstand and fire these missiles is fueled by Russian help? Do you see that as a feature here?
Well, the trouble is, I mean, the short answer is I don't know, but you have to look at who benefits from this war continuing. One of the people that benefits, clearly, President Putin, because, quite frankly, if you look at the number of weapons and missiles that America is using in this war, it simply means there are fewer available to provide across to Ukraine, and President Zelensky has already been claiming that. In addition, a central pillar of our fight against Putin has been against his economy, making it really, really difficult for him to sell oil, which is how he funds the war. Well, President Trump lifted the lid of sanctions of Russian oil the other day. He didn't ask the international community, he didn't ask the West about it, and that apparently benefits Putin by about $150 million a day. So there's all sorts of reasons why an extended war benefits Putin. Exactly how he would contribute to this, I frankly don't know. But there's certainly Chinese are involved because they're providing anti-ship missiles, which are another key capability that are keeping those straits closed.
I don't want to ask you this from a political point of view. I want to ask you this from a military point of view. Growing up, we all know that America, the Vietnam stories, the Afghanistan stories. I think Donald Trump's on dodgy ground now because he said, did he not, that this would end very quickly. There will be no boots on the ground. Now there's discussions about withdrawing or that not happening. It just surprises me, I'm being completely honest, that wasn't taken into account, that the very things that you're talking about, that they could block the Straits of Hormuz, that they would have support from the Russians and maybe potentially the Chinese, wasn't taken into account. Do you think it was a mistake attacking Iran? Not politically, militarily.
Well, the point you raise is really interesting, Jeremy, because as a military guy, before we were ever sent into conflict, we would sit down with our political masters and make absolutely clear that we understood what the end state was, because what did they want us to achieve? And then whether militarily that was achievable. Now, the war in Iran is war game regularly. America would have done that. They're not stupid. And General Kane, who's the chief of the Joint Chiefs there, will have almost certainly turned around to Trump and said, look, this doesn't end well. It doesn't matter how strong you are. This does not end well. And yet it appears that President Trump has just ignored that advice. And I do wonder whether he thought that having gone into Venezuela, plucked Maduro out, and a few days later the dust settles, that maybe he genuinely thought that by going in, decapitating the leadership, and suddenly the Iranian people would all rise up, there'd be a regime change, and all of a sudden everything will be solved. Frankly, that was naive, but you've not heard much from General Kane. And I think when the history books are written about this, Jeremy, they will turn around and say this was a president who believed his own hype. But actually, despite American superpower, it was actually the rather erratic leadership of the President Trump that actually proved to be America's shortcoming.
Final question, difficult, I know, but I'll throw it in. Where does it end in your mind, Sean? You're a military expert. Where does it end?
Well, you allude to the fact that US Marines are on their way. You know, boots on the ground is not the answer. That would be a disaster for a president that got elected on the basis of peace. I suspect what will happen is that he's got his hands so far in the mangle, he'll just declare victory, walk away, leave a trail of devastation behind him. And at the moment, it's Israel, I suspect, that wants this war to go on longer. We haven't got time to get into that. But I suspect he'll walk away, blame the West for not getting involved, and leave it to us to try and negotiate with Iran to get the straits open again.
Good man. Listen, it's always great to have you on. The authority on all things military, the brilliant Sean Bell, former fighter pilot, now military analyst. Thank you very much indeed. It's 12 minutes to 8. We're live across the United Kingdom. If you are waking up, obviously the latest in Iran, that attack, alleged attack on Diego Garcia. We didn't find out about it from our government for 30 hours. There's questions being asked about that. This is the same government whose Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood has over the weekend announced a tough crackdown on immigration. She'd only said it, and about 7 minutes later, most of her backbenchers went, "Don't be so unfair." There's all sorts of stuff going on, including this appalling story. If you're just waking up, just tuning in, police have launched an investigation overnight after 4 Hatzolah ambulances belonging to the Jewish community, funded, driven voluntarily by the Jewish community for the whole community, and set on fire. The police are calling an anti-Semitic hate crime. And I keep looking at Sky and I keep looking at the news on BBC, and the BBC haven't even reported it. We're asking the question this morning. Anti-Semitism, right, is hateful. Anti-Semitism is racist. When those dreadful things happened after Southport, those 3 poor people were killed, those kids, it was all far-right thugs. Nothing from our Prime Minister and nothing from our Mayor, despite the fact... Oh, hold on, breaking... You're going to push me breaking news thing? 10 to 8, Sir Keir Starmer, where have you been? This is a tweet from our Prime Minister in the last 20 seconds. This is a deeply shocking anti-Semitic arson attack. My thoughts are with the Jewish community who are waking up to this morning to this horrific news. Anti-Semitism has no place in our society. Anyone with any information must come forward to the police. So he's eventually tweeted at 10 to 8. Nothing yet from Khan. If anti-Semitism has no place in a society you're the Prime Minister in charge of, why don't you do something about it? You said you'd eradicated it from the Labour Party when you got rid of Corbyn. What about an anti-Semitism czar? That might be an idea, Sir Keir. Morning, Stevie.
Hi, Jezza. Great show as usual. Just a thing. How about we give that £500 odd million a year to a company in this country so it stops illegal immigrants actually reaching our shore? Because clearly the French aren't going to stop them leaving theirs. So how about we get a company in this country to do it? Thanks a lot. Steve from Derby. Bye.
Every Monday to Wednesday, midnight until 1, it is Talkback.
Such a shortage of housing. You've got landlords, right, have taken that on board, and it's an absolute disgrace.
Your stories, your opinions, it is your chance to have your say. So they're literally just being rented out as hotels, basically.
Yeah, rent a load of hotels.
Well, that has really shone a light for me.
On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
It looks like people are stirring after that horrible attack on 4 Hezbollah ambulances overnight. The Jewish community up in arms in Golders Green. Nothing, it seemed, from our Prime Minister, who just tweeted, "This is a deeply shocking anti-Semitic arson attack. My thoughts are with the Jewish community who are waking up this morning to this horrific news. Anti-Semitism has no place in our society." And step forward, Sadiq Khan. 8 o'clock. Just listen to this. "This is a cowardly attack on the Jewish community. I'm in close contact with police who are stepping up patrols in the area, and I urge anyone with information to come forward, as Londoners will never be cowed by this kind of hatred and intimidation. I don't want to be accused of being biased towards Sadiq Khan." Do you notice the difference between Starmer and Khan? I didn't think I'd say this. Not one mention of anti-Semitism in Sadiq Khan's tweet. 0344 499 1000. We're going to say a very good morning to former detective constable from Greater Manchester Police, turned whistleblower, has set up the Maggie Oliver Foundation and is fighting tooth and bleeding nail for you, Great Britain, to get that rape gang inquiry. Good morning, legend.
Good morning, Jeremy. I'm on my soapbox again.
Well,
different subject this time.
Are you talking about the white? But honestly, are you talking about this report?
Yeah, I mean...
Can I just tell people, there's so much in the news today. Lord Sewell, who is one of the few Tories that we have any respect for, was commissioned by this government to create a landmark race report, presumably to point out about how if you come from other countries, you're treated really badly. And lo and behold, he's going to be telling Keir Starmer this week that Britain is failing white working class boys, calling for urgent action on education opportunity because white working class boys are being left behind as we strive for this mad, inclusive, priority, tick-boxing madness, Mags.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes... this does focus on white working class boys, but I think it's a far wider problem in relation to boys in general, but particularly from working class backgrounds. I mean, I'm coming at this, Jeremy, from a mum of 3 boys and a nana of 2 boys, not as a professional who works in education, but I've got eyes in my head and I've got a lifetime of experience. And I see that, you know, the children are not the problem. Our system is. You know, we've failed to... Our education system these days, I don't believe, values every child. I think we've moved from kind of inspiring minds to measuring output. And boys from working class backgrounds who often grow up in deprivation, you know, their skill sets might not fit into the academic world that we concentrate on now in schools and education. You know, we've kind of done away with apprenticeships. We don't value skills and trades. We only seem to value as a country academic achievement. And white working class boys, I mean, my husband was a builder. He was a joiner. He could build a house. He'd never passed an exam in his life. I can barely fry an egg. So it is about valuing different skills
but doesn't it, Mags, doesn't it go further than that, though, that actually we are so seemingly in a society that's about box ticking that even kids from non-working class backgrounds who have got qualifications, that a whole lot of them are being put at the back of the queue whilst companies, governments tick boxes and say... I mean, I think Donald Trump was right when he said, when he was seeking re-election, it should be on ability and talent. It shouldn't be on the colour of your skin or your disability or what ethnic group you come from or what religion you follow. That's ridiculous. And so I think if you were saying it about other people, but it's interesting, isn't it, that he's asked to do a race report, fully expecting, I think, the government expecting him to say, oh, we're very, very anti this, and it's actually the indigenous population, again, who are being beaten around the head, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I have to widen it, Jeremy, and say there's a lot of things feed into this. You know, teachers now, they don't change lives. They're ticking boxes. They're limited by targets and league tables, and they're not empowered to teach. But I think if you showed a class there of children from different backgrounds. You know, where I live on my estate, there's a lot of Chinese families and a lot of Asian families who do pressure their children and encourage them to do academic work. I think in working class backgrounds, skills are valued far more, and schools don't reflect that. You know, a child from, you know, whose father might be a labourer doesn't get the encouragement at home to study science. Universities have become businesses. Apprenticeships died. We failed a whole generation of children. And I think, you know, the system has a lack of leadership, a lack of investment, a lack of understanding. So I think that this report is really important because it's going to, hopefully lead to an examination of how we teach boys. You know, Jeremy, as a father yourself, that boys themselves don't learn in the same way as girls. School wants boys and girls to sit down, do as you're told, whereas boys learn differently. They want to be active. They want to be doing. That's my experience as a mum and somebody who's lived life. So I think that generations of boys have been failed, but I think that the magic has gone out of our education system. There's no curiosity anymore, no creativity. It's all been stripped away and it's been replaced by pattern and exam and tick box exercises. And white working class boys are not, I'm generalising, obviously, but their skill sets and their aspirations are different than sitting in a classroom and perhaps studying, you know, biology. And I think we have to recognise that in our school system. So yes, it's failing white working class boys, but we've got to look wider at the reasons for that.
Can I just salute you, and can I just say, I wish I had more time, the Maggie Oliver Foundation.com, which for every single one of you listening is fighting for a national rape gang inquiry. Go online and support it because this woman is a legend. Mags, thank you so much. Really appreciate your input, as ever. Please, this woman is trying to achieve something that this entire country needs, that rape gang inquiry. Almost 8 o'clock. Zia Youssef, Shadow Home Sexual Reform, next after the news at 8 on Talk.
Fancy returning to the front line as Foreign Secretary?
I am going to return. I am going to return. To the people from whence I came.
Hello, I'm Peter Mandelson, and I'm proud to serve as His Majesty's British Ambassador to the United States of America.
I feel a tremendous sense, a profound sense of sympathy for those people, those women who suffered as a result of his behaviour and his illegal criminal activities. And secondly, I regret very, very deeply indeed carrying on that association with him for far longer than I should have done.
The ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret for his association with him. He's right to do so. I have confidence in him, and he's playing an important role in the UK-US relationship.
Mandy's out 4 decades and 3 scandals, or 3 that we know about. Guess what? Number 10 knew all about it. They knew that he lived in Jeffrey Epstein's flat.
Mandelson resigned from the Labour Party late last night over the allegations of $75,000 set of payments to him from Epstein while he was business secretary, $10,000 to his now husband, a photo of him in his pants. This isn't just bad form. There are strong arguments here for him to be facing investigation over misconduct in public office.
I knew of his association with Epstein, but had I known then what I know now, I'd have never appointed him.
Breaking news that Lord Mandelson, Peter Mandelson, has now been arrested. So Mandy and Andy have now both had their collars felt. This is the establishment, the British establishment on trial. Came to us around about 5 o'clock when we learned that we saw footage of Peter Mandelson being led out of his London home in very exclusive Regent's Park by 3 coppers.
Now we have all these allegations, we have all the documentation related to those allegations, which Downing Street is being forced to put out. The first tranche of it will be early next month.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome along, welcome back. It's gone 8 o'clock. It is Monday, the 23rd of March, and you would talk. It's the home of common sense, of course, and the home of the alarm clock. Brit, what are you waking up to? Well, an appalling attack overnight. Police have launched what they say is an anti-Semitic hate crime investigation after 4 Hatzalah ambulances. These belong to the Jewish community. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see pictures now. 3 masked men approaching a parked ambulance that is funded by the Jewish community, driven by volunteers, and supports the entire community. 4 of them literally set on fire and rendered completely unusable. That in Golders Green. Interestingly, it took him a while. At 8 o'clock, Sir Keir Starmer tweeted, "This is a deeply shocking anti-Semitic arson attack." My thoughts are with the Jewish community who are waking up this morning to this horrific news. Anti-Semitism has no place in our society. Anyone with info must come forward to the police. Followed very quickly by the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. Just work out the difference. This is a cowardly attack on the Jewish community. I'm in close contact with the police who are stepping up patrols in the area, and I urge anyone with info to come forward. Londoners will never be cowed by this kind of hatred and intimidation. No mention, Sadiq Khan, of anti-Semitism. No mention, he says, the Jewish community. What about both of you getting your heads together and working out that actually any form of racism is abhorrent? And whilst you jump up and down, as you quite rightly did, Keir Starmer, well, after those Southport riots, you went, they're all far right, they're all fascists, they're all racist, we need to lock them up. What about this scum? What about this anti-Semitic scum? What are you going to do about them? Probably nothing. 0344 499 1000. We'll talk immigration. We'll talk about this amazing report. Lord Sewell, a Tory MP, Lord really, was asked by Keir Starmer to do a race report to point out, obviously, how utterly biased towards other cultures we are. Interestingly, it's come back and said that Britain is failing white working-class boys. The landmark judgment calls for urgent action on education and opportunity amongst white boys. Morning, Paul in Chislehurst. The attack on the Hatzalah of the Jewish medical services is a disgrace. Unfortunately, I'm afraid it's an attack on all of us. I was a Met police officer for years in London. On many occasions, the Hatzalah would turn up on scene to assist the police and London ambulance service. Those responsible should hang their heads in shame. Roger in Wales says, maybe we should set up a GoFund page for the Jewish community to replace those ambulances. It is absolutely appalling. Voice note. Morning, Rob.
If
Nigel Farage becomes the next Prime Minister of this country, and I pray to God he does. I think it's the only thing that will save us. The fight he has ahead of him is tough and rough, and we must stand tall, because wanting to have people removed and things like that, it'll create so much trouble. And I don't care about that, because it's the right thing for this country. If you came here illegally without any documentation and you didn't join the line for the real people who all want to help, you need to go. And I don't care how long you've been here and how good you've been, you need to go. We're not racists. We just want our country to be the way it was. In many places you can go and you can see it's changed in ways that will never recover. And if that spreads, and how do we stop it if they're having 6 kids to our 1? Yeah, let's take the two child care cap thing off her. That'll help, won't it? They'll keep coming. We'll get pushed to the back of the queue, and it'll get tougher for everybody. But you've got to stand strong on this and pray that reform become the next government. And then we'll have to stand together and try to see this through. Peace and love to everybody. Good morning.
6 minutes past 8. Let's go live to the Shadow Home Secretary for Reform. He would be the Home Secretary if Nigel Farage gets into 10 Downing Street. Zia Yusuf, a very good morning.
Good morning.
I don't think I've been angry all the time since I started doing this job, but this attack overnight, just to repeat for people tuning in, 4 Hatzalah ambulances, Zia. These are volunteers. This is funded by the Jewish community, for the Jewish community and the wider community. We can see pictures there, set on fire in Golders Green. The arson attack is being treated as an anti-Semitic hate crime. Starmer has called it a deeply shocking anti-Semitic attack. But the Mayor of London says, I will urge anyone with info to come forward. Londoners will never be cowed by this time of hatred and intimidation. Sadiq Khan, even in this moment, cannot bring himself to use the phrase anti-Semitism. I hope and pray, if you are the next Home Secretary, and that's down to the electorate, this can't be allowed. This imbalance of how different sections of our society are being treated is absolutely unparalleled and it's just wrong, Zia. Wrong.
But it would be my highest priority to ensure that two-tier policing comes to an end, that no community in the country gets special treatment. And my condolences to the Jewish community. Obviously, it's a shocking anti-Semitic attack that we have seen on those ambulances. But Sadiq Khan says that this city will, quote, never be cowed by this sort of thing. Well, I'm afraid it has been cowed year after year after year. I mean, people listening to this can probably remember when there was, I still remember it. Do you remember when there were those cars driving through North London, draped in the Palestinian flag, shouting that they wanted to commit egregious and heinous crimes against the daughters of Jewish people? Do you remember that?
And their mothers and grandmothers,
It wasn't that they got a short and lenient jail sentence. It wasn't even that they were let off jail. Charges were not even brought. Let me just say that again. Charges were not even brought. What do you think happens? You get what you tolerate in a society. And it's a basic human principle. And for too long, we have tolerated this sort of extremism, this sort of anti-Semitism. I talked about it in my speech, my first speech as Shadow Home Secretary. You look at an organisation like Prevent, which was supposed to be our first line of defence against attacks like this, right? Looking for help in being that sort of first response to where extremism is brewing. And when I read the independent report by Sir Shawcross, an extraordinary report, it was mind-blowing. He literally said that Prevent had a, quote, institutional hesitancy from addressing extremist Islamism. And given that the vast majority of the caseload of MI5 is Islamist extremism, given the vast majority of bloodshed in terrorist attacks in this country over the last few decades is Islamist terrorism, that is one of the most shocking indictments that one could possibly see from an independent report. So one of the things I've said is, look, we're going to change all of that. Prevent is no longer going to be some glorified arm of social working, afraid of being called Islamophobic or racist or any other trope. What they're going to do is be laser focused on preventing terrorist attacks before they happen and ensuring that, again, no matter what colour your skin is, what religion you are, you get equal treatment before the law. And I'm afraid if you speak to many Jewish people in this country, almost all of the Jewish people I speak to in this country, I speak to a lot of them because they're very worried at the moment. Many are thinking of leaving. And I think that's to our that is a huge canary in the coal mine and a source of great shame right now for this country. But I promise you, with Nigel as our Prime Minister, that will change very fast indeed.
A lot of people, I mean, to me, listening to you, I agree, and all extremism is wrong. And there seems to be, I said it earlier, so there seems to be this For me, all racism is abhorrent, but there seems to be a blind spot with this government, whether it's anti-Semitism, the Jewish community, whether it's the rape gang inquiry. We just had Maggie on, who has dedicated her life to getting a national inquiry into our children. And it seems to me, I remember speaking to about the rape gang, I've told you this before, I think, speaking to a very senior detective in Rochdale who said, oh, we had to be really careful and tread carefully because we don't want to upset. I just want to point out, all racism to me is abhorrent, but why do we seem as a society to kowtow to certain religions, faiths, sections of society, and yet let others be treated as appallingly as this? Explain to me, as briefly as you can, how does it happen?
Sadly, I'm afraid there's actually a very simple answer to that question, and right now it is electoral calculation. It is called, look, if you're ever in doubt about what's motivating politicians inside a democracy, just go to Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the correct one. They're just looking out for their own backs. You look at someone like Wes Streeting, who's almost certainly going to lose his seat to an independent sort of Gaza candidate. We are seeing the rise of sectarian politics in this country, and it is accelerating very, very fast indeed. We already have a handful of MPs who talk about what happens in the Israel-Palestine conflict by far more than they talk about anything in this country. So that's the reason why. That's why they sort of go and visit. I mean, Robert and Nigel did a press conference where we talked about the extraordinary friendship, very close friendship between the current Chancellor Rachel Reeves and, frankly, an abhorrent extremist, right? And who was posting things on Facebook, including support for prescribed terrorist organisations, and yet the Chancellor still saw fit to literally go over to his house. Why? Because he's very influential in that particular community and could be decisive in winning their vote. So look, there is still some time for us to address this as a country. Because look, if we go down the road of people just voting purely down sectarian lines, which, as I said, is starting to happen at an accelerating rate, something I was very worried about. It's one of the reasons I came into politics, actually. I wrote about this in The Telegraph in the summer of 2024, before the general election, because I could see where all of this is heading. Unless we get a handle of this and say, look, we're not accepting any of this extremism, we're not accepting anything other than, for example, that Britain, ultimately, the heritage of Britain is Christian, and we should be proud of that, again, regardless of what religion you are. That's why one of the policies I've announced already is that we would list and protect all churches in this country, prevent them from being converted into mosques or any other places of worship. And most importantly, we have to ensure that extremist Islam is dealt with, that there is a zero tolerance approach for it. Look, here's another case in point. Britain is still one of the only serious countries in the world that still has not prescribed the Muslim Brotherhood, which is something I would do the second I'm Home Secretary. We were one of the first things that I would do. It's still one of the only serious countries that has not prescribed the IRGC, which is basically the terrorist arm of the Iranian regime. I mean, how much more do they need to do? MI5 has already said that they have prevented 20 terrorist attacks in this country at their hand. We're now hearing that the Iranian regime is potentially, there are reports that they might well be able to reach London with some of their intercontinental ballistic missiles. How much more do we need to see before this cowardly Prime Minister will do what even the European Union... I don't know, I come on this show very often, Jeremy, and we talk about how the European Union has done something well, but even the European Union has found itself within its slumber to prescribe the RGC. So when you ask these questions about why these things are not being done, I'll tell you why they're not being done. It's because we have a spineless Prime Minister. And look, it was the Tories before them as well, by the way. I mean, so many of these problems, you might hear them now, as usual, bleating and squealing about all of these problems. These problems were created on their watch. Let
me put this to you.
As usual, is accelerating that fire.
Couldn't agree more, but let me put this to you, because one of the biggest criticisms of reform that I hear, and you have to have the opportunity to respond to this, and it's a usual sort of criticism when you're in opposition. I used to say it to Labour. You talk about leaving the IRGC, quite rightly. You talk about, the Iranian Brotherhood, quite rightly, prescribe it, absolutely. You talk about leaving the ECHR. You talk about all the things that to us are common sense. The problem is, this country has been fed politicians here for years who have said in opposition, I'm being totally straight with you, we will do this, we will do this. And then we hear the blob, the legal ramifications, the lack of will, the this, the that. I'll give you an example. I don't agree with anything that she stands for, but you would have to look at Shabana Mahmood, who says she's trying, at least, I think, to swim against the tide, excuse the pun, of a Labour Party that patently doesn't want to do anything about illegal immigration. You and I both know she'll be out of a job in a heartbeat. How does reform convince people that it isn't just wind, they genuinely not only want to do it, but will actually be able to see it through come what may? I think that's a really important question.
Well, getting those hard things done is exactly what this whole reform movement is about. It's why I joined a completely insurgent startup party with no real infrastructure. That's the only way that you could get this done. And look, doing these things is not going to be easy. It's going to be incredibly hard. If it was easy, it would already have been done. So what needs to be in place in order for us to do those things and turn this country around? Number one, yes, we have to leave the ECHR. We also need to derogate from a host of other international treaties. And to do that, yes, you need a vote in the House of Commons. You need what's called primary legislation. To do that, you need a majority of turquoise-blooded reform MPs who are going to ruthlessly and relentlessly vote this stuff through. And we're going to need to be hyper-prepared, more prepared than any incoming British government in our lifetimes. We're going to have thousands of pages of legislation ready to go. We've already started doing that. Danny Kruger leads the department known as Preparation for Government, not out of arrogance or hubris, but we owe it to the British people to be ready in that way. And we're also ready, we talk about this a lot, for whatever the blob is going to throw at us. I hope that if I'm Home Secretary, I'll walk into the Home Office and they'll all be super excited and they're going to do all of the things we need to do to secure our borders. But you and I, Jeremy, and people listening to this programme know, sadly, while there are some great people who work there, there's a lot of people who don't want that.
Then I'd fire them. If they don't want to carry out the will.
To fire them. If you're not willing to do what is necessary, you've got to be willing to fire them. And most of all, not only do you need a united parliamentary party with a majority, which we haven't had, by the way. Yeah, we've had some Tories who said it. The parliamentary party was always hopelessly split. But even more important than that, you need leadership. You need a prime minister who will work every second of every day. Because the power of number 10's office is actually much more powerful than most people. I know people complain that it isn't powerful. If you have a working majority of MPs, which no Tory MP had on the right of that party, and you have so if you have a majority of Reform MPs and you have someone like Nigel who has campaigned on these issues, that's what I would point people to. Nigel was making YouTube videos out in the channel about the catastrophe of the small boats crisis years and years and years and years
20 years ago.
About these issues. Remember the Breaking Point billboard? He got all of that flack for decades ago. So Nigel believes this in his heart. He believes it in his bones. It's why he doesn't need to be doing this. A lot of us at Reform are doing this. I don't even get paid to do this. We're doing it because we love our country. For us, this is the last opportunity we have to deliver an incredible country for our children and our grandchildren.
The other thing I want to ask you about, Lord Sewell, who deserves a mention this morning out of respect, a former Tory MP has become a Lord, was tasked by Starmer with instigating a race report to look at, presumably, he hoped, Starmer or believed, that the report would come back and say, minority communities, blah, 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 weren't getting opportunities. It might be shocking. I'd love your response quickly. The report will say this week that Britain, Zia Youssef, is failing working-class white boys, and it calls for urgent action on education opportunity because in the quest for diversity and box-ticking, white middle-class boys and working-class boys have been left behind, for Christ's sake.
I'm afraid. I don't like slicing and dicing the country by different colours and different economic classes. But if we are going to do that, I'll tell you which demographic performs the worst across almost all measures, and it is white working class boys. White working class boys are performing worse than pretty much any other group in this country. They're being left behind at under 16, at under 13. They're one of the lowest attendance rates in terms of university. They're one of the lowest graduation rates when they are at university. So we've got to ask ourselves why this is happening. I'll tell you why it's happening. It's because the whole system is rigged against them. They are people, and I've spoken to kids who... mothers with their children who live on council estates who are absolutely struggling. And what they tell me is there's no leg up for us whatsoever. And in fact, to the degree there are legs up, they're for everyone other than us. It's shameful that the BBC had an internship program not open to white people. The Royal Air Force, His Majesty's Royal Air Force, was taken to task and lost an employment tribunal for institutionally racist and sexist recruitment practices because they were systematically discriminating against white men. Then you have our security services, the Bank of England. I could go on with internship and graduate recruitment programs open to every race other than white people, which, by the way, given that we are in Britain, is one of the most shocking. And I mean, can you imagine Japan ever doing
No.
Can you imagine any serious country doing that sort of thing? So it's not a surprise to hear that conclusion.
Listen, mate, it's always a pleasure. And, you know, we put the questions to you, but we so appreciate your time. And, you know, the British public have to make their mind up. But I think there's a sense, a real sense, and I keep saying it to you, of unfairness. I think there's an increasing silent majority just think this isn't right. We really appreciate your time. Zia Yusuf, 8:20, Shadow Home Secretary for Reform. If they are the next government, he will be the Home Secretary. And he says white working class boys will get an equal chance. He says that the Jewish community that has been attacked overnight, an investigation has been launched after 4 Hezbollah ambulances belonging to the Jewish community were firebombed. It's an anti-Semitic hate crime, the police say. Keir Starmer's come out and said it's an anti-Semitic arson attack. Sadiq Khan's come out and hasn't said so much. Morning, Sean.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby here. When the Prime Minister tweets his lie of the day and says there's no space for anti-Semitism in our country, we know that's not true because we know there is a place for it. We've seen it on our streets every weekend for years and years, and it's all led up to the shooting in Manchester and now to the petrol bombing of ambulances.
8:22. Can we just take 5? It's a usual thing on the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show because Oliver won't go into school because he's sat in the car with his mum, bless her, who's not well. Ollie, have a good day, mate. I'll be home very soon. I love you very much. Rissy's in the back. Probably Ava, the world's greatest nanny, is in the front. She is my daughter, so no, never mind. And Vic's not well. 0344 499 1000. Are we indoors or outdoors? We're outdoors. We're going to College Green on a bright, crisp... No, it's not. It's horrible. Good morning to Robbie Moore. Tory on the Tory. Good morning, Robbie. Why are they putting the farming shadow minister out when there's all sorts of stuff going on? Have you drawn the short straw, man? Am I missing the news today? What's happening?
No, they've put me out because there's lots to talk about on every issue, particularly within our rural communities that are being impacted right now by the choices not only that this Labour government is making that's hitting our farming community, but impact on fertiliser prices, red diesel prices as a result of what's happening in Iran.
Listen, I would support, until the cows come home, excuse the pun, the rights of our farmers. I think the inheritance tax is an absolute disgrace. I think he looked Starmer, the NFU, in the face and blatantly lied, and I think it is part of a long list. And what really infuriates me about this inheritance tax, this land grab, is that the idiot doesn't seem to work out that British farmers produced food. And yet again, like his climate change policy, if you screw farmers, you'll have to import food from other countries and it'll be even more expensive. It's a bit like if you don't drill, you import the oil or the gas or whatever, then it becomes more expensive. But I need to talk to you about what happened overnight, Robbie, because there is utter outrage this morning about this government. Overnight, you'll have heard about the arson attack on those 4 Hezbollah ambulances. 3 ambulances manned by the Jewish community, not just for the Jews, but for the entire community. 4 of them set on fire. The arson attack being treated as an anti-Semitic hate crime. Belatedly, both Khan and Starmer have come out. I want to ask you a question. And I know what you'll say, but I think it's important to get it across to the listeners. I find any form of racism abhorrent, but I fail to understand in this country how Jewish hatred is not treated the same way as other vile racism. I don't understand why our Jewish friends and our Jewish communities are being treated so utterly appallingly. I think it is fundamentally disgusting, genuinely.
Yeah, look, what happened last night in Golders Green was absolutely appalling. I absolutely condemn the attacks on our Jewish community again. And I know that a lot of those, not only just in Golders Green, but across the country, are feeling deeply, deeply worried about the fact that the state, whether it is from the government down to those local authority level and across the police, are not necessarily taking these issues and providing the level of support that those communities need as strongly as they should do. And it is worrying that yet again there has been an attack on the streets of this country in London against our Jewish community, and that must stop. And from the Prime Minister down to everyone who has ultimate responsibility must call this issue out as being anti-Semitic, make sure that the Met Police are doing their job with the full powers that they need and the ability to get on to be able to provide that level of reassurance to the Jewish community that these sorts of attacks will not be tolerated on the streets of this country.
Do you know what, Robbie, what's so disappointing and upsetting? I have many Jewish friends. I have people who are Jewish who work in this building, right? Do you know the worst thing is? They look at you in a resigned way and say, we're used to this. That's fundamental. I'm not even going to repeat. One of my mates tells me the noises he hears at football matches. It's utterly wrong. And I really don't understand how... It's a bit like the rape gang inquiry, isn't it? Are we now getting to a point where... Why is a Jewish person being persecuted any worse than a Muslim or an Indian or a Pakistani man or an Afghan or an... Why is it? Is it... I'm going to ask a question some people won't like. Is it because they're white?
Well, look, the continued attack on our Jewish community is completely unacceptable. Anyone that lives in this country must feel completely safe, protected, and that the government is on their side, that anyone in a position of responsibility is advocating for them. And that's not obviously the case, unfortunately, with our Jewish community, as again we've seen in Golders Green again last night. And that's not, it wasn't that long ago that we had that horrendous attack in Manchester, deeply, deeply unsettling for the Jewish community, which is why from the Prime Minister down to every local individual that has got a position of representation, from the police right the way through, has to provide that level of reassurance to the Jewish community and everybody across the country that they must feel safe and that the government is on their side. That's clearly not the case right now in terms of the level of reassurance that is being provided.
Robbie, you'll love this, because I started this part thinking, where's the link to farmers? So this morning I came in, and on page 2 of the Sun newspaper, Henry Tufnell, the MP for Pembrokeshire, was up in arms, saying Britain needs greater energy sovereignty in the face of further geopolitical turmoil. Now is the time to alter our approach to energy, basically calling out his paymasters. Well, since you've been on, I've had a very interesting text. You ready for this? This will make you smile. Henry Tufnell is my local MP in Pembrokeshire. Just before the announcement of this heinous government of the farmers' land inheritance tax changes, Tufnell's mummy and daddy put their massive Calmsden farm estate, a 2,200-acre property located in the Cotswolds, into trust to ensure they bypass the incoming inheritance tax changes in good times. I don't know if this is true. I'm reading this from Martin in Pembrokeshire. He says, that's Socialist Labour MP Henry Tufnell for you, a posh Englishman parachuted into my Pembrokeshire society for the general election. Your response to that, Robbie, because that is a really interesting text.
Well, look, this is a story that's already been in the press, reported a while ago. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but the theme of it seems to be correct. But what this illustrates is you have a Labour Member of Parliament here that clearly understands the hugely detrimental impact that the inheritance tax changes has been having on our farming community, indeed any family business, and has therefore, as a family, tried to mitigate that liability that this Labour government have literally voted on. But there's a key issue here, is a clear lack of understanding amongst a socialist city-dwelling government that does not necessarily understand the implications on our farming community as a result of their choices. And ultimately, this will impact food prices. So here we have our farmers not only being impacted by the inheritance tax changes, but de-linked payments have dramatically reduced. The sustainable farming incentive has been chopped and changed. Now payment rates are significantly reducing under that. We see fertiliser prices increasing dramatically. Red diesel prices, just to put this in context, were about 67 pence a litre just last month, and now many of our farming community are being quoted up to 135 pence a litre this month. Now that is all having a hugely negative impact on cash flow for our farming businesses that produce food, and our farmers are working day in, day out to put food on our plates. So you have a Labour government in the building behind me not understanding the choices that they are making on our hard-working farmers, and clearly you've demonstrated one Labour MP that understands it but not willing to vote with our farmers and against this cruel government.
Top man, I know that the Tory party is very supportive of the farming community, and long may that continue. It's certainly one on this show. Robbie Moore, thank you very much indeed. Live at Westminster, the shadow farming minister for Kemi Badenoch's party. What is it, 8:30? We're live across the UK. Talk breakfast is on 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Back in 3.
When conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. So much response to this main news story you're waking up to. Overnight, police have launched an investigation of 4 Hassola ambulances set fire to in Golders Green. The police are treating this as an anti-Semitic hate crime. The Prime Minister has tweeted, "This is a deeply shocking anti-Semitic arson attack. My thoughts are with the Jewish community who are waking up this morning to this horrific news. Anti-Semitism has no place in this society." Sadiq Khan, this is a cowardly attack on the Jewish community. I'm in close contact with the police. I urge anyone with info to come forward, as Londoners will never be cowed by this type of hatred or intimidation. Not a mention of anti-Semitism then, Sadiq. 0344 499 1000. The other main news story today, Lord Sewell, Tory peer, tasked by this government to create a race report that I would think they hoped would say that, you know, lots of people coming to this country were treated unfairly and that, you know, young men and girls from ethnic backgrounds were not given opportunities. It's come back and said that Britain is failing white working-class boys, calling for urgent action and education opportunity. Imagine that. 0344 499 1000. We bow down to Lord Sewell this morning. We also bow down to the Deputy Political Editor of The Sun. A very good morning, Ryan Saby. How are you, Ryan?
Good morning, Jeremy.
The BBC have not yet reported on 4 Jewish ambulances being firebombed in London overnight, which just about sums it up. Can I ask you, as a political editor, do your readers share my utter horror at how Jews are treated increasingly in this country, and a government, and I go back as well, that doesn't seem to place anti-Semitism, Ryan, in the same way as it does other forms of abhorrent racism? Don't get it, mate. Don't get it.
Yeah, it certainly should. And I think anyone looking at the pictures this morning, absolutely horrific. I've just seen one video. I think it's some video released of the actual ambulances being, I think you're showing it there, being set on fire. And, you know, the sort of audacity of those 3 individuals to set light to an ambulance doing good to all communities, trying to help people. And this is exactly what they do. You know, it is disgusting. And Keir Starmer will no doubt be asked about. You know, he's tweeted already. He'll no doubt be asked about this later today. And you know, we share his sentiments that he's just said there.
I'm sure it might be me to a degree, although the response has been pretty phenomenal from people this morning. It just seems to be another example of our Prime Minister's 2-tier policing. You remember the horror of Southport and all those people taken to the streets, and it was very easy for him to stand up and say, they're all far right, they're all fascists, we're going to round them up and throw them in jail. Well, why are these people not being rounded up right now? Why are there not police out on the streets? I mean, I've sent Samara Gill, our breakfast reporter, down there. She's going to join us before 10. There's an imbalance, Ryan. That's what's really hacking people off in many ways in our society, I think.
Yeah, I think it's one thing I'm sure the police are looking up. I think it's the perception. The perception are the police treating everyone, you know, the same, whether it's, you know, in Southport, whether it's in Golders Green there. The police don't want to be seen to have more of a laid-back attitude towards one section of society than the other. And I think that's maybe something where police ministers need to come together to make sure that everyone's at least seen to be treated fairly before the law.
I don't think they are seen to be. Let's talk more politically centred in Westminster. It's your bag. Many people say, oh, come on, Jez, don't be horrible to Sakir. Over the weekend, reports of a strike linked to Iran on Diego Garcia, of course, the military base, the Chagos Islands, the ridiculous £35 billion deal. 30 hours it took for the government to tell us, and that's created a bit of controversy, Ryan.
Yeah, this attack seemed to happen sort of late Thursday night, Friday morning. And it seems that these two missiles from Iran were intercepted as they were heading in the direction of Diego Garcia. Now, I fully expect Defence Secretary John Healey to update MPs on this later, because lots of people will have questions. Why was this time delay on the British people knowing exactly what was happening? Because that Diego Garcia, it's an American base, British sovereignty. It feels like we have a right to know. Now, I understand they may have been working through what had happened, working through whether Iran was intending to hit Diego Garcia. But the fact now that it seems that they were targeting it, why weren't we told at the very, very first opportunity? And I think there'll be lots of questions around that. And it just brings up the whole question of Diego Garcia, of our control over it, the fact that we should probably hold on to it. So I think that will all come into the fore later.
And just quickly, Starmer and Trump, he says, Trump, I'm giving them 48 hours. I've set a deadline. I'm going to obliterate anything in the Straits of Hormuz that's Iranian. We still see a prime minister who dithers and delays. Let's make this point, it's also to be fair on this show. A poll said that 70% of people agreed with him not to go into initial combat, and there are many in this office who agree with that, and that's absolutely fine. What everybody's united on, Ryan, is this obsession he seems to have. I don't know if it's an obsession. He changes his mind so readily because he's presumably trying to kowtow to everybody. It now seems bases are allowed, then they're not allowed, then this isn't allowed, then this is allowed. And that lack of consistency is his number one issue, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think you've got that confusion. You've got that confusion amongst what his, maybe his ministers think. He's got to try and keep, his party on side, his backbenchers on side, the British public on side, and then he's got the issue of Donald Trump. But they spoke by phone last night. They've talked about trying to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. Now, the trouble is, if there really is an escalation in this, it's just going to affect everybody. It's going to send oil prices, gas prices spiraling even more, and it's going to be even more difficult on the British consumer. But as you say, Keir, he just needs to row a straight path and let the British public know exactly what he thinks about subjects, rather than sort of swaying from one side to the other. And I think that's been the trouble. Yeah. You go back to all the decisions we talk about. We also talk about 15 U-turns. Where does he stand? Where does he think on the main issues of the day? And that's kind of his biggest Achilles heel, really.
And that's the point, isn't it? Because any leader, whether you love them or loathe them, has to make decisions sometimes that are unpopular. And I think he's incapable of thinking, I'm going to make an unpopular decision. So he listens to photo groups and all these advisors, and he ends up not making a decision and ends up hated by absolutely everybody. I'm going to play this for you because you need a smile. Have you seen the skit from Saturday Night Live in America?
Yes, I did. Yes, it's very good.
For anybody just driving in on the radio, YouTube, this is the biggest comedy show in America is called Saturday Night Live. This is how they portray Keir Starmer and David Lammy. And this is, I guess, and Ryan, we thank you so much, you can laugh in your way to work. This is how the Americans, well, this is what they think of our Prime Minister. Go to the break with this is brilliant.
Oh, golly. Well, what if Donald shouts at me? What do I say, Lammy?
Just be yourself, Prime Minister. Yourself is who everyone likes.
Hello? Oh, sod that scary, wonderful president. Why is he so blubber difficult to talk to?
Sir, just be honest and tell him we can't send any more ships to the Strait of Hormuz.
Oh, crumbs. I just hate conflict so much.
Are you referring to the war or this phone call?
Isn't there a way I can not do both? I just want to keep him happy, Lammy. You don't understand him like I do. I can change him.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Oh. Welcome back, 18 minutes to 9. Don't forget Julia back at 10 o'clock this morning. Should be fabulous. 10 to 1. Ian Collins from 1 and Kev O'Sullivan on Drive from 4 o'clock. That's how we're lining up on Talk. It is, of course, the home of common sense. Sean, a very good morning to you, my friend.
Morning, Jeremy, Sean and Leicester. These ambulances getting torched, mate, is absolutely outrageous. And we know that Keir Starmer's not going to come online and say anything. He's not going to condemn it the way he condemned the attacks in Southport. And what really amazes me with Starmer is his wife's Jewish. Now, a Prime Minister shouldn't take sides. Clearly he does, but just not with the Jewish people. His wife must look at him in shame. The sooner he's out, the better, mate, honestly. Anyway, have a good day.
Richard's in Grimsby says, morning, Jez. Another abhorrent attack on the Jewish community. I'm embarrassed. How long until our Prime Minister rolls out Lady Starmer to make it look like he cares? Well, we have to be balanced and fair. He did tweet, this is a deeply shocking anti-Semitic arson attack. My thoughts are with the Jewish community who are waking up this morning to this horrific news. Anti-Semitism has no place in our society. Tweet from Khan. This is a cowardly attack on the Jewish community. I'm in close contact with police, blah, blah, blah. Londoners will never be cowed by this kind of hatred and intimidation. But still, Sadiq Khan, you won't use the phrase anti-Semitism. By the way, the BBC isn't even reporting this story about how 4 ambulances funded by the Jewish community, the Hatzolah, I can't say, I've given up, Hatzolah ambulances funded, driven, provided by the Jewish community, firebombed overnight, right, in Golders Green. Even the police are calling it a hate crime. 8:45. We are going to cross to... Which border is this? This is amazing. Yosef Haddad is an Arab-Israeli journalist. He's on the border of... where are you exactly, my friend, Yosef?
First of all, hello to everyone. I am literally on the border between Lebanon and Israel. And in fact, what you see, not these houses here, but the line above it, this is actually the village El Adaisi in the southern of Lebanon that was conquered by the IDF. Otherwise, I wouldn't be standing like this right now, because if it wasn't conquered by the IDF and destroyed Hezbollah, right now I would have been in such a danger that probably less than 20 seconds, I would have a missile, an anti-tank missile launched at me. But because the IDF managed to conquer this village, I'm safe and I can actually conduct this interview literally like this without a vest and a helmet.
It's great to have you on, Yosef. We follow this as best as we can, not just in the media, but obviously the British people. There are domestic issues to this conflict, oil prices, the Straits of Hormuz. I know that Trump has said to Iran the clock is ticking. Of course, you have the fact that most of his allies have said they'll not send ships, they're not getting involved. What's your take on where we're at the moment? There's been sort of conspiracy theories said this has been led by Israel. He was coerced. Trump's going to walk away. Nobody really knows where we're going with this. Yosef, what's your take?
Well, my take is very simple. When I see the vicious and the sadistic terrorists who are trying to kill me and kill the Israelis in order to eventually arrive to the West and then kill you and kill the American and kill the Australian and kill the European and the South American, I am telling you that there is only one thing that should happen, and it is the complete annihilation of the IRGC. Because when you take the IRGC down, Hezbollah won't even survive 10 minutes after that. Certainly Hamas not, and the Houthis in Yemen not, and Ansarullah in Iraq not. All those proxies that is paid by the IRGC to conquer the Arab world, to destroy the Arab world, to destroy the Middle East, to arrive to Israel in order for them to destroy the little devil, which is Israel, and all this to conquer the Middle East, to reach you guys. Now, allow me, yes? Because just last week, the foreign minister of the IRGC, I don't call it the foreign minister of Iran, he's the foreign minister of the IRGC, yeah? He stated on NBC that they don't need more than 2,000-kilometer range missile. Why? Because they don't have enemies above that range. But here's the thing. they launched a missile over 4,000 kilometers to the island of Diego Garcia, and he literally lied to everyone. Now, how long are you going to believe that? And I'm talking about Keir Starmer. How long are you going to show that weakness? The Great Britain nation that fought the Nazis and beat the Nazis and freed the whole world, literally freed the whole world. Why can't you be Winston Churchill? Why can't you fight in order for you to maintain the safety, not only for the Great Britain of the people of the Great Britain, but for Europe and the free world? Wake up, guys, because I'm telling you, you should thank us. What we're doing is we're doing the hard job of everybody else, and we're the one who's being bombed. We're the one who's paying the heavy price, and on top of that, we're the one who get criticized. Are you kidding me?
No, listen, you don't need to preach to me, because I'm in agreement with you. I've said it for as long as I can remember, my friend.
My general talking is definitely towards the government of the UK, especially to the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, that is showing such weakness in front of the Middle East that it's unbelievable.
Did you know what happened overnight? A domestic story here. I should share this with you. There's a Hatzalah ambulances are, I've probably said it wrong. They are provided locally.
No, actually, you're saying it right. Hatzalah ambulances.
Yeah, there you are, Alicia. I got it right. Provided locally by the community in Golders Green in London, funded, driven and everything, set on fire, bombed. Set on fire. And one of the things in this country that is, I will go on about until they drag me out of this studio, is the imbalance that we seem to deal with and anti-Semitism. Our Prime Minister is married, strangely enough, to a Jewish woman, and yet quite rightly jumps up and down about other forms of racism because it's all hatred. But anti-Semitism, I think, is on a different scale. And I've always thought and said to my Jewish friends, apart from that, Israel's the only democratically elected state in the Middle East, Israel has a unique place in my heart and many people's heart because it's fought for so long. But unfortunately, a lot of the press will say, Netanyahu's this, he's out to achieve this, and they forget that these mad mullahs, as you quite rightly said, have financed terrorist cells across the world for damn years and have killed innocent people. But people like Starmer won't have that. They don't believe that. They can't. Do you know what I want to say to Starmer myself? You talk about being honest. I'd like him to go and speak to the parents of those kids that were blown to pieces in the Manchester Arena and explain how he thinks sitting round a table and negotiating with people like that works. Because it doesn't work, Yosef, does it? It doesn't work at all.
And I'll tell you something else. It's a hate crime because it's an anti-Semitic crime against the Jewish community. And, you say Hatzalah. I just want to explain. Hatzalah means save people's life. And if I want to compare it here to Israel, let's say, for instance, in Israel, we have Ikhud Hatzalah and MADA, MDA, that actually are the two organizations that save lives. In those two organizations, you have Arabs and Jews working together, Arabs and Jewish Israelis, Arab Israelis, Jewish Israelis together working in saving lives. And they never ask a question, is this guy is a Jew? Is this guy is an Arab? No, they go and their mission is to save their lives because they are Israeli citizens. So we have this partnership here between Jews and Arabs, where you have Muslim Arabs, Christian Arabs, Druze Arabs, and Jewish Israelis. And it's certainly fascinating me that in Israel you have this partnership between Jews and Arabs, and yet in the United Kingdom you have those crime hates and as well as terrorism. Because I just want to say something. Again, I'm not confirming it. I'm just passing sort of a message that one of the terrorist groups of Al-Shabaab Yamin claimed responsibility for this act. So for me, it's a hate crime against the Jewish community, being anti-Semites. And if they are right, claiming the responsibility for this is a terror attack on Britain.
Couldn't agree more.
Attack on Britain.
Yosef, I have to go. Mate, you are always welcome on the show. We thank you, and I mean that. He's on the Israeli-Lebanese border there for this show. The brilliant Yosef Haddad. What is it, 9 minutes to 8? Busy old show. 9 minutes to 9. Where's the time gone? 0344 499 1000. Don't forget Samara Gill. I've dispatched her with the camera crew down to Golders Green. I want the local community's response to that appalling attack last night on the community, on their ambulances. But at 9 minutes to 9, we're going to change tack. You can't do a show without this lady. We say a very good morning. I'm going to call her the Royal Angel. Angela Levin, a very good morning.
Good morning. I was wondering who you were going to talk about.
Yeah,
I didn't think it would be me.
We've only got about 7 minutes, Right, what we're going to do here, Levin, is we're going to throw a few things at you, and I want that acid tongue in full motion. Where do I start? Meghan Markle, having been dumped by Netflix, is heading down under. She's planning an Aussie cash grab. She said that this is where the future lies, but a local poll showed that about 90% of them don't want her anywhere near Australia.
Definitely not, and quite rightly so, actually. She's also such a sort of cheat because she got all these things done in Australia in 2024. So she's been planning this like she did before she left the royal family. She's got it all ready, pretending there's nothing going on, nothing's happening, and she's off. And she's got it all sorted.
Yeah, has she though, really? When are those two going to realise, a bit like Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and his odious wife, that everybody's patience is not only thin, it's over? Nobody wants her jam. She's not a duchess, she's not a member of the royal family. Do you know what me and my mate... Have I told you this before, whenever we go to America on golf trips? Do you know what we do in the afternoon? We watch reruns of Deal or No Deal, and she was box 23. Do you know that? With Harvey Mandel years ago in a boob tube. Fantastic.
Yeah, she's got yoga straps, pet feeding, gardening tools, bath and shower gel, jewellery, furniture, skin cast, podcasts. Well, she's going to teach people how to do a podcast. She was thrown off for that. She's just nonsense. She did that years ago. She sort of said, I'm going to do this. Nothing happens because she doesn't know how to do it. She won't listen. Is not telling anybody that she needs help. So that's the end of her. Next.
Well, how long until he leaves her? Wakes up the ginger one and realises common sense.
That I can't tell. You know, that would be an awful thing to try and say. But he's sort of adores her in some ways. When she's frightened, he's frightened of her in other ways. So it's very difficult.
Aren't all men scared of women? Isn't the man in your house scared of you, Ange? Come on, let's be honest.
No. He's quite strong.
Is he?
And I'm quite strong, so it works very well.
I don't want to know. Listen, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor over the weekend. I mean, honestly, I don't mean to sound rude, so a man walks his dog. Can I ask you something? I mean, I know that the press have been waiting for that shot because the last one was him coming out of prison with his eyes open. What does become of this man? He can't even go outside the front door now. I mean, we've talked about, you know, his mental health and that, but the truth is he's so indignant, isn't he, and so up his own backside, excuse the pun, that he still doesn't think he's done anything wrong. What happens to him, Angela?
Well, he will move again into another home when it's ready, Marsh Farm. But I think after a while he'll get his ex-wife back with him and they'll go off somewhere in, you know, far, far away. And I think that's better. They can't at the moment because of the war, but they will be back together because they're...
Do you reckon?
Do I think? Yeah, because they're the only two people who really like each other, you know. I mean, they don't...
What about the girls? I thought this would start. Lots of papers this weekend talking about Beatrice and Eugénie's weddings, talking about the embarrassments of their husbands. Kinsey earlier said that's what happens, Beatrice, if you marry a good-looking bloke, you're always going to feel insecure. They are tainted by association, those girls now, aren't they?
Yes. Yes, they are. And she had a man who you could see was after the royals, because I think that any man who drops his child very quickly from a previous relationship and then joins another family, I think, how can you do that so quickly? It all happened very quickly. And I think that his previous...
This is Eduardo, isn't it, you're talking about?
Yes. The previous girlfriend also was very kind and let it happen. But I think that he obviously saw he was on a good thing and jumped on it. And that little boy had to go with them.
I'm slightly worried about your choice of phrase. In his marriage, he saw a good thing and jumped on it. Finally, Prince William, we love you, Angela Levin. This is quite interesting for me. We've only got a minute. He sparks controversy this weekend after admitting he has a quiet faith. Good for him, being honest. What's wrong with that?
I think it's terrific, and
Yeah.
I think that it's done. I think it's changed him because of Catherine, and I think that he's found her. He's delighted, and he's cared for her, and she has got well. At the moment, she's fine, and I think that has changed him. He feels more about God, and I think that it's a very good thing. And I also think that he's doing this because he is the heir of the throne, and King Charles is very much religious, even if you don't like what he's keen on. But he wants to let people know that he will be an honourable person. What I don't understand is that they're friendly with Dame Sarah Mutely, who actually is the one who said you can stop a child being born up to the...
I would only say this very quickly. What I like about him saying a quiet faith is he's not all shouting from the rooftops. I think you're right. She's Iron Kate. She and he are a formidable couple, and the sooner they accede to the throne, the better. We love having you on, oh wise one. Thank you so much indeed. The wonderful Angela Levin. It's almost 9 o'clock. We've got your calls coming up, 0344 499 1000, text on 87222. Bonnie June.
This is Jay from Essex. The ambulance is manned for everyone, not just Jews, volunteers. This is like 1930s Germany. This is the sort of regime that Keir Starmer and his government are supporting. Jews first, Christians next. Something needs to be done now.
Current affairs, international news, letting criminals off while sending... Oi! Oi! You shut up! I'm trying to record something.
Stand by for 3 powerhouse hours of breaking news, challenging views. I don't give a flying damn about international law. I think people will viscerally reject this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. Just gone 9 o'clock. This is Talk, of course, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock. Brit, where have you been? What are you waking up to? Just this appalling story that has really captured your imagination. Police have launched an investigation after the overnight attack of 4 Hadzola ambulances in Golders Green in London. These community ambulances were not only funded by the Jewish community, they were manned by the Jewish community. If you're watching on YouTube, dreadful footage. Masked men just walking up and throwing petrol and setting fire to these ambulances. All 4 were set on fire. The arson attack is being called an anti-Semitic hate crime. Loads of you getting involved and saying, what a big GoFund page. Apparently an ambulance is 125 grand. They've already raised nigh on £15,000. People are outraged, and they're outraged because they're simply saying this to the government. Why is anti-Semitism not treated in the same way as any other form of abhorrent racism? It isn't. Why is that? What is the reason? How can a community... it's beyond me. It's abhorrent. We're going to send... Well, we have sent Samara Gill, our roving reporter, down to Golders Green to bring us a report between now and 10 o'clock as to what the local community's reaction is to that. We'll have that for you in the next hour. Also on the show this morning, there's a guy called Lord Sewell, who used to be a Tory MP, who's now a Lord, who was tasked by this government with going away and writing a race report, presumably to say to our government, it's not fair. You know, there's communities that come here or, who are treated really badly. Actually, it's come back and said, and I quote, that Britain is failing categorically white working-class boys. The Landmark report calls for urgent action on education and opportunity. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the latest in Iran. Trump gave them a 48-hour deadline, get it sorted, open the Straits of Hormuz to Iran, because the global impact of that is extraordinary, or you will know what's hit you. It's all going on. 0344 499 1000. Maggie in London. This is also responding to the fact that Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, I think's heart is in the right place, says she's going to ramp up a migration crackdown. Detain, deport. Where have we heard that before? Tories? Reform? Oh, she's going to... But actually, all of her party says she's not. The cynic in me is saying Mahmood is just saying what she thinks people want to hear, like, we are cracking down on migrants. OK, pull the other one. The whole Labour Party correctly one joke. As for whomever started that fire, let's hope the police really do look into it. I feel sorry for the Jewish community. Oh, God, there's so many of you. Good morning, Jezza. I can't understand why some people are mystified as to why Starmer and Khan aren't more supportive of the Jewish community. We know why. A large proportion of the Muslim community hate Jews, and Starmer and Khan rely on their votes. The same goes for the child rape gangs. And I'm also hearing from certain sections that there are more white people engaged in the same crime. Surely, if that's true, it's even more urgent to hold a national inquiry into the rape gang, says Chris in Ottershaw. Couldn't agree with you more. Good morning to Catherine in Cardiff. I could not agree more with the wonderful Maggie Oliver you had on earlier. When the odious Tony Blair announced that everyone could go to university and there would be no more dead-end jobs, I immediately asked who was going to get them then. Little did I know it would mean unfettered immigration. Moreover, my view was that we should value those who were willing to do those jobs, respect and pay them appropriately. So many of today's problems can be traced straight back to that bloody man Blair. Wow. Dear Jeremy, is it too soon to start a GoFundMe campaign to replace the ambulances, says George in Luton? It has been done already. Good morning to Headley. It's quite pod. To add to what Maggie just said, my wife works in education. Yesterday she had to do incel training. It was completely twisted against white men, for example. If someone is concerned about immigration, they could be far right and susceptible to become an incel. Talk about missing the point completely. Can I just do something else as well? Without being accused of anything. I read a newspaper report. Did you see this, Alicia? Nigel Farage on Thursday, as part of his campaign to take reform around the country, went to Leeds, to their headquarters in Leeds, and did a rally in front... Do you know this, G-Spot? This is brilliant. Within 24 hours of him leaving the city, the Labour-controlled council set out a memorandum to its 4,000 staff saying that there was a safe place in the council offices this week for anybody who was deeply traumatised by the far-right thug that's Nigel Farage visited Leeds. That's what we're dealing with. That's the madness that is my country, ladies and gentlemen. It's true. A safe space to sit if you're worried. Oh, for God's sake, let's bring on some class. Let's bring on a lady who's posher than anybody I've ever met. Annunciata Rees-Mogg, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Jeremy.
It's nice to have a bit of class, love. Been dragging the dregs this morning. Can we start where we should start, categorically, with this appalling, and I make no apology for raging about this morning, 4 head solar ambulances attacked, belonged to the Jewish community, financed by the Jewish community in Golders Green last night. It is an anti-Semitic hate crime. Starmer's come out and said that. Khan doesn't mention anti-Semitism. I want to ask you a question. You're a lady of real intelligence. How is it in this country, if I can sit here and say I find all forms of racism abhorrent, which I do, why do white Jewish people get treated so appallingly and nobody seems to do anything about it, Annunciata?
It is absolutely despicable, and it's been going on and on and on. I mean, it's been, nearly 20 years since there was an investigation into BBC anti-Semitism. We had the whole Jeremy Corbyn Labour Party events going on with anti-Semitism. There is a rot at the core. And the Jews are a tiny proportion of our population. They make up less than 1%. And yet they are such a focus of hatred. And I'm afraid the left continually conflating the state of Israel with the Jewish faith is making this worse and worse and worse. There was a case recently of I think it was under-14s football match, where the Jewish team, they were from a Jewish school, faced incredible racist abuse from other young teenagers. And our children are learning this, but because it's becoming accepted at the top, and it has got to be rooted out.
I don't understand, though. Maybe I missed the point. But then we're talking about a society that I'm beginning to feel shame about, because we're talking about a society that won't have a national rape gang inquiry. I don't call it grooming because it's rape. Presumably, and I'm told that's because it might upset certain sections of the community. It's the same as crime. When those some of them dreadful people took to the streets after the Southport riots, they weren't all far right. There were some people who were really frustrated by what was going on. They were labelled far right. Why hasn't our Prime Minister come out this morning and said Jew haters are going to be rounded up and thrown in prison? I don't understand, and I think you make the best point, which is they conflate the idea of Netanyahu and that with the Jewish community. I really have a problem with this, because I think it's a disgusting way to treat this group. I really do. It's been a problem of mine for a long time.
It's a complete stain on our entire nation. But it does seem to be that from the top there is a preference for some groups over others. And if we look at the Muslim community, which makes up over 6% of our population, it would seem there are different rules. And when we look at the football match in Birmingham, we saw just how unfair the direction from the top was, that they used AI to justify banning an Israeli team, when in fact it appeared the threat came from the local Muslim community not wanting Jews playing in their area. And we have got to address this from the top. There has got to be leadership, and it has got to be cracked down on. That we are not a country that beats up the smallest and weakest in our community.
It's interesting, isn't it? Somebody's just said here, Jez, let's stop the arson attack coverage and say what it is, a dirty terrorist attack, because it affects every community. These ambulances serve everyone in an emergency. I completely agree. It's probably me. I just will not accept that that's... The problem is, whenever you have this conversation, so I said this morning, I said, we have a government that's just initiated a Muslim czar, right? I don't want racism against Muslims, but I don't want racism against Jews. So why isn't there an anti-Semitic czar in this government? It's as if... And we know that there are several very high-profile Labour candidates, MPs, who will lose their seats. I mean, don't get me on what I think about politicians standing in a community, not even mentioning the community, but talking about Gaza. I'm sorry, that's not the whole point to me. You can have concerns, but you should be doing that. But if our politicians now in power are simply following a path to head off the Greens... I mean, there's another thing. I haven't spoken to you since then. Fair play. Hannah Spencer won Gorton and Denton fair and square, but I haven't mentioned... Have they mentioned trees or hugging a whale or anything? I haven't heard a Green candidate mention anything environmental now. It's Gaza and the Muslim vote, isn't it?
It would seem to be, and there seems to be a huge hypocrisy at the centre of the Green Party, where their big issues are sort of progressive social rights of the trans ideological side, and then it's pro-Islamic countries and foreign affairs from a Muslim standpoint, and those two don't actually go together at all. We know what happens to gay people, to trans people, to women in some of these Muslim countries, and how they try and square that I do not understand, but it is vote grabbing. And look at a seat like Wes Streeting's. He's under immense threat directly from a Muslim opponent, and he can't...
Oh, sorry, I thought you were going to say from the Mandelson fallout for a minute. I got that wrong.
That too. Yeah, no. I don't think we've heard the end of that. No. Although phones seem to go missing, which is rather convenient.
Just a question, I'm much older than you. How have we got genuinely to this? How have we got to a point where there's Jew hatred, sectarian voting, family voting, a split society, seemingly a government, and I do mean this isn't sort of rhetoric, who seem to favour perpetrators of crime, not victims. I mean, I see people can walk into supermarkets and nick stuff and nobody does anything. I don't recognise, and I'm only 60, well, I am 60, I don't recognise where we're at. And I see it getting worse, and it really concerns me.
None of the small stuff has been cracked down on it. And the broken windows theory that was obviously in America in the 80s, where if you crack down on broken windows and graffiti, you solve crimes higher and higher up the chain and make society safer, and it is proven to work. We've sort of, oh, well, they might need the food, so stealing it's fine. No, it's gangs of people going in and emptying supermarket shelves and reselling it. This is not the poor and needy. We have a welfare system, we have a safety net. This is criminals. But the sort of soft left seem to love adopting a victimhood that is incredibly un-British, but also incredibly bad and rots society. And they have put the immigrants, the asylum seekers into this category, and therefore are sort of, well, they can do no wrong because they're the needy and they're the good people, like us good Labour people. The good.
But how did we?
It's completely false.
Of course it's false. But how did the sanity amongst the rest of us get pushed aside? What the hell happened to? I've told the story before about opening the door to a woman. You get poo-pooed. What happened to going to work, paying your taxes, not breaking the law, trying to bring your kids up, doing decent things? No, now you might as well sign on or have 57 children, or before anybody says it, yes, I've got 6, I pay for them all like your brother. All those sorts of things. It's almost as if, and I can't even have the conversation with my 22-year-old, core values that I was brought up on have disappeared completely nowadays in Annunziata. Core values.
And I think a lot of this does go back. Maggie Oliver mentioned Tony Blair. A lot of this does go back to Tony Blair, and where we changed from being free independent people. As Maggie said, there's no such thing as society. It's a collection of individuals. And we went from that individual responsibility, personal responsibility for ourselves, for our families, to being reliant on the state. And it came in the form of a change in benefits. It came in a form of nanny state laws that meant, everyone was wrapped in cotton wool and nothing could ever go wrong. It was never your own fault. It came in the form of tax credits, where if wages weren't enough, the government picked up the slack rather than the market adjusting as it should have. It came in the form of shipping in immigrants to do jobs Brits didn't want to do.
Didn't want to do. God.
And it has become a societal issue that the state tells us what we can and can't do. The state picks up the slack when things go wrong, and nothing is our own fault. And therefore, when you are racist, when you are anti-Semitic, when you are stealing goods because it's helpful for the poor, as we saw in supermarkets in Manchester and other places last week, you are merely helping this cause. You are on the good side. And what we need to get back to each and every one of us having personal responsibility for ourselves, for our families, and to our communities. And we are, at the end of the day, all local in an area, and we have a responsibility to that. It should not all be the government telling us what we can do and saying they can put it right, when clearly, most of the time, they make it worse.
You see, you and I would be old-fashioned. I remember Thatcher. You know, you want to aspire to buy your own house. You want to aspire to run your own business. We're not going to wipe your backside. It's not about state control. It's about living within a community and finding your own feet. Can I ask you very quickly, Nancy? I'm really grateful for you coming on today. Lord Sewell, do you know him?
I don't know him.
He deserves a shout-out of brilliance today, because Lord Sewell is now a Tory peer for people tuning in, and he was asked by Sir Keir Starmer to come up with the race report. Presumably Starmer thought Lord Sewell will come back and say, well, all these poor minorities and ethnic groups are treated appallingly in the world's terrible. He's actually come back and said something that I think is really, really important in terms of the news cycle. He says that Britain today is failing white working-class boys, and he calls for urgent action on education and opportunity. And just for people tuning in, just so I can lay this out, you know, we've gone to a point, haven't we, where it seems that one doesn't get an interview or a job on ability or experience. Nowadays, it's box ticking and what's your language, what's your disability, where did you come from? I'm calling it out because it's absolutely true, and it's gone the other way. Of course, we shouldn't prioritise against people with those sort of things, but it's gone the other way, whereby seemingly, if you're white working class, you can't even get a leg up anymore.
Positive discrimination absolutely destroys countries, and it also destroys the minorities or the sections of society it is meant to support. And we will see that feed through, that actually, as a female, I never wanted to be on an all-women shortlist to get into Parliament, because I want to know that I'm there on merit and merit alone. I do not want to be ticking some box. We've seen in the Labour Party some of their women who did get there through all-women shortlists probably wouldn't have made the cut if they had open competition. But it's the same for ethnic minorities. And we have now known for years that it is white working class boys whose outcomes are the worst. Their GCSE results, their chances of going to university, their chances of ending up unemployed, all of them come back worse than any other ethnic group or any other class group. And we should really address this, because it is a huge proportion of our population. We are totally failing, and there is no excuse for it, except for we do keep prioritising people in ways that are only related to what they look like rather than what they need.
I couldn't agree more. I'm going to repeat this to you because you wouldn't have been around 2 hours ago. I told the story about a mate whose girlfriend's daughter's partner was, I mean, listen, 23, 24, semi-professional rugby player, got a first-class honours degree, I think, from Durham, wanted to work in finance, just a good-looking middle-class boy. Send off 200 applications over 12 months. Couldn't even get a response. And one of his friends, yeah, this is totally true, got him to change his pronouns and got him to put non-binary, and he got 4 job interviews in a month. That's absolute rubbish, man. And how does that work? How is that based on ability? That's where Trump was right. It shouldn't be on colour of skin or disability. It should be on ability, right?
I've got a friend who works in one of the big accountancy firms and was told that as a middle-aged straight white man, he was not going to get promotion. And again, it's completely wrong to have these tick boxes.
Yeah.
It's bad for how things are run. It's bad for those banks who don't take the best people. It's bad for that firm that doesn't promote the best people, but it's fundamentally bad for the country, because this is all led by our civil service, who have more tick boxes than anyone else.
We love having you on the show. Thank you. And I love the Mummy's Day card behind. It's very well drawn. It's very lovely. Annunciata Rees-Mogg, head, popular conservatism. Thank you very much indeed. What a lovely lady she is. 9:21. We're going to get Trevor Kavanagh just to tick 0344 499 1000. Jez, although Hatzler ambulances are funded by the Jewish community, they're not just for Jewish people. Cliff, we know this. It's brilliant. They're volunteered by the Jewish community and they're the whole community. Jez, if Mr Starmer and Mr Khan are genuinely concerned about the Jewish community after those attacks in Golders Green, they should be actually going there to talk to the people and publicly show their support rather than the usual platitudes they put out on X, which everyone knows are meaningless. I can't believe the anti-Semitism is allowed. It's turning into Nazi Germany. Keep up the good work, Caroline. Can I say Samara Gill, our roving reporter, is on her way down to Golders Green to get a reaction to that breaking news story that's dominated this morning's show. Overnight, 4 Hatzler ambulances, which are locally funded community ambulances, which really do a great job and for everybody, was set fire to. The police are calling it an anti-Semitic hate crime. There's video footage that's just chilling. 3 or 4 masked men walking up towards an ambulance, parked for the night, set fire to it. That's great for the community. And not a sign of our Prime Minister calling it sort of racist or fascist or sending the military in like he did in Southport. Anyway, Trevor Kavanagh will be next. Don't go anywhere. Coming right back. Good morning. Who am I saying good morning to now? Morning, Kelvin.
Good morning, Jeremy. On these ambulance attacks, when they find these men that have set fire to these ambulances, I only hope that they have to pay for each ambulance they've destroyed out of their own pockets. That'll teach them a lesson, good and proper. So that's what they should do with them. Even if they have to go into debt, I don't care how much debt they go into, they shouldn't have set fire to them. So that's what should happen. They should be made pay the full cost of each one of them ambulances out of their own pockets. I bet you when you start doing that, crime in this country will drop dramatically, honestly. Starmer, he's Captain Chaos. He hasn't got a clue about anything. And if I was his wife, I'd strangle him in his sleep. Bye.
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:26. We're live across the UK. It's all been changed this morning on The Breakfast Show. Christian, home, not well. And Alicia's done an amazing job. Alicia, we don't care. 0344 499 1000. You are up in arms about this ambulance attack, and quite rightly. Tony Marchwood. Is it Tony in Marchwood or Tony Marchwood? I've no idea. He says, you know that story you were telling? This is true, because Nigel Farage went to Leeds on a campaign rally on Thursday, the council, which is Labour run, sent an email to its 4,000 staff saying, if you feel traumatised by this right-wing man, there's a safe space at the council building. We're going to provide therapy for you for the next few days. Tony says, the safe space for the councillors in Leeds is being paid for by the council taxpayers. Well worth the council tax rise, isn't it? Not. Hello to Stephen in London. He says, this story about how white working-class boys are being failed by our education system, where the hell's Bridget Phillipson in all of this? Yeah, she's a bit angry, doesn't she? Very angry. That skit from Saturday Night Live, Stalin sounds like Zippy from Rainbow. I'm only going to play it one more time. I'm going to do it for a reason, because we've been playing this since 6 o'clock. Overnight in America, there's a great Saturday night show, Saturday Night Live. They're trying to replicate it here. Saturday, it is here in the UK, but I watched it, it's not as good. Saturday Night Live in America spawned so many talents, but this is a skit, and this is how they see Keir Starmer. This has been retweeted by Donald Trump, has gone to billions of people. This is bloody fantastic. Have a listen, have a watch.
Oh, golly. Well, what if Donald shouts at me? What do I say, Lammy?
Just be yourself, Prime Minister. Yourself is who everyone likes.
Hello? Oh, sod that scary, scary, wonderful president. Why is he so blubber difficult to talk to?
Sir, just be honest and tell him we can't send any more ships to the Strait of Hormuz.
Oh, crumbs. I just hate conflict so much.
Are you referring to the war or this phone call?
Isn't there a way I can not do both? I just want to keep him happy, Lammy. You don't understand him like I do. I can change him.
A very good morning to the legend that is Trevor Kavanagh. How good is that, Trev?
I thought it was the real thing, actually.
CCTV footage, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a sad commentary on Britain today, isn't it? And that's being picked up and run with by the whole of the United States. It's a shocking humiliation for us.
I think so. Let's start with the main news story of the day, my friend. I've been very vocal about this. I make no apology. Police have launched an investigation overnight after 4 Hatzalah ambulances belonging to the Jewish community, funded by the Jewish community, driven by the Jewish community, for the whole community, by the way, set on fire in Golders Green. You've seen some of the images. The police, I mean, it's unbelievable. The police have said it's an anti-Semitic hate crime. Starmer's come out and said, you know, anti-Semitism has no place. But Sadiq Khan says Londoners will never be cowed by this time of hatred and intimidation. He can't bring himself to say anti-Semitism. I know I'm outspoken, Trev. I'm not sure I want to live in a society where this is acceptable. Aren't these thugs being rounded up right now? And why is anti-Semitism allowed to take place? It's a disgusting stain on us. It really is, in my mind.
Will any of them spend 32 months in jail? I doubt it, if they're caught at all. I mean, look, this is a precursor for things which we were going to have to get used to in this country, because the Iranian National Guard has people in this country in large numbers. First, they come for the Jews. Soon they'll be doing what the IRA does and coming for anyone who's in their firing line. I mean, that's how it was for 30 years. And we've always forgotten the way that the IRA terrorized Britain 30 years ago. But that's the sort of thing we might be looking towards in the future at the rate that things are going.
When you say stuff like that, people will listen and they'll go, oh, and just hear me out, because I'm with you. They'll say, yeah, that's outrageous. You're just fanning the flames. You're just trying to build this, that and the other. But the truth of the matter is, to anybody with a brain cell, we seem to now live in a society where, for whatever reason, our political government, our leaders right now are currying favour with a certain demographic, a certain section of society. Is it out of political survival? Possibly. There's no balance. There's no balance in the judiciary. There's no balance in the police. There's no balance in education. And I'm not talking about the breakdown of a society, because I'm not like that. But you do look across the spectrum, Trevor, and you go, you're a little bit older than me. What the hell has happened to our country? I don't recognise so much of it. I don't.
No, and it all comes down from our introduction of human rights, which have become sacred rights rather than responsibilities. So we have the terrible imposition of DIE, which is what I call it, rather than DEI. And what we should have is the death of DIE, because it is corrupting everything from the armed forces to the judiciary, to our universities, to our education system, and indeed to our policing. So the imposition of quotas, which is basically what it is, ticking boxes, as Annunciata Rees-Mogg just said, that's affecting everybody in this country who is not of an immigrant background.
But all right, just explain this to me then. How do successive governments, and Boris was as guilty as anybody, so this isn't just aimed at Starmer, how do successive governments imagine that the British people, the hard-working Brit, male and female, bringing up, whatever it is, how do they imagine in the end those people will respond to something that is totally and utterly unjust and unfair?
Well, I'd like to think that at the next general election, which we have to remember is going to be a full 3 years away, because this government isn't going to go voluntarily to the slaughterhouse, the next election, we have to hope, is going to see a tilt to the centre and the right, the centre-right and maybe the right. So if we don't have that, we're doomed. If this government and its acolytes in the Green Party, the Liberal Democrats, if they continue in power for another term, another full term, there will be 10 years of decadence in this country, which will be irreparable and maybe already is.
You ever seen it this bad or thought it was this bad, Trev?
It's never been this bad. I don't think that the country as a country has been so divided one against another as this one is today. And I think that it is now so entrenched that it is difficult to see any government coming in and peaceably being able to reconcile those dividing forces.
It's very interesting when you say peaceably. I asked a reform, I think it was Richard Tice the other day. You say detain and deport. You talk about not an ICE-like feature, but people will be taken off the streets and from places and deported. And I said to him, how do you think, you know, the weak-willed liberals? He said they'll be up in arms. We're looking at a situation where for potentially things that have to happen, there will be even more division than there is now. It won't paper over any cracks. Do you think... Do you think enough people want that, or do you think we're in a sort of vacuum right now?
I think the overwhelming majority of the British people, who remain the sort of famous British people with common sense, would agree with every word you just said. Yeah. And I think that what we are troubled by, those of us who try to speak on behalf of those people, is the number coming in illegally, as we've seen over the last 24 hours, boatloads coming in from France, ushered across the Channel by French police, despite the fact that Britain is paying them £500 million to stop them. And they're coming in far faster than even our Home Secretary is going to be able to deport them. They're coming in at hundreds and hundreds a day, and we're not going to deport hundreds and hundreds a day.
I'm really outspoken. I wouldn't let them land. I'm sorry. I'd have the Navy in the Channel, and I would recommission a massive liner, and I'd create a crack team of border officials, and I'd process them within 24 hours. And if they haven't got papers, they're not coming into my country, they'd be sent to a detention centre, which wouldn't be very nice. I mean, God, did you see that story last week? The Roundhouse Hotel in Bournemouth. 2 illegal migrants have lived there 14 months rent-free, tax-free, 3 meals a day, a credit card, a phone, everything. Been running a County Lines drug ride deal. Honestly, Trevor, just to me, it goes back to what does it say to the hard-working Brits. There's another story I'd love your take on today. I think we should take a bow. Lord Sewell, by the way. Old Starmer said to Lord Sewell, can you come up with a race report, please? Presumably in the hope that it would say, poor migrants are treated really badly. Well, he's come back, Trevor. I'd love your response to this, and said that Britain is categorically failing white working-class boys, and he calls for urgent action and education opportunity for working-class white boys. That's a doff our cap to him, I would say.
Absolutely, and Tony Sewell is actually saying something which has been known and talked about and discussed and ignored for at least a decade. We've known that white working class boys are second in line, in fact, probably third or fourth in line when it comes to the sort of care and attention in the education and welfare system. Others come immediately at the top. And you mentioned the case of a friend of yours who had a child who got no job offers, a son who had no job offers. Well, we're all in that boat. My grandson and granddaughter can't get jobs because they don't qualify, because they're the wrong color or wrong sexual orientation. And, you know, they have very good qualifications that they've managed to earn, good GCSEs, good A-levels, good degrees.
Yeah.
And they are left swinging in the wind. And so are their friends and neighbours.
I couldn't agree more. One of the things, and there's plenty about Trump that I disagree with, but one of the things that I absolutely steadfastly agreed with when he stood for re-election was when he said, from now on, you know, an opportunity in this country will be about ability. It will not be about your disability, your skin colour, your religion, your creed, or your political beliefs. And I don't know, you and I can sit here and pontificate, but I'm all for equality. I actually am all for equality, but we've gone so far the other way, so far to the point that there is no common sense left. It's madness. And the reason I do this every day, the reason I rail against this, Trev, to the point where it drives me insane is I don't know. I want to look people like Starmer in the face and go, where's your common sense, man? Your son ain't going to get a job. Your wife is Jew. What is wrong with you? Can you not see? Basically, is everything you do essentially about being re-elected or your MPs not losing to Gaza independent candidates? What about having a pair of balls and standing up and saying, this is what I believe and it might be unpopular, but this is where we're going? Doesn't do it. Doesn't have it in him.
No, and I think that we are about to pay the huge final bill for this lunacy, really, because our armed forces are, of all branches of our national life, the armed forces should be free and trained to actually fight for this country. And in fact, they're not. They are still subject to this DEI or DIE. They have to make allowances for people who they must have to promote people who are not up to the job. They have to give way to people who are the wrong gender for the sort of SAS type activities, the hard graft of getting in on your bellies with guns and trying to infiltrate armed positions. These are the sort of things we will be needing, I suspect, in the next few years and maybe sooner as the world becomes more and more unstable. And we have bound our hands behind our backs right across the spectrum, education-wise, military-wise, legal system-wise. We cannot take the steps now that we need to take in order to protect this country.
Can anybody, I'm not talking about individuals, is it too late the next election for somebody to come in and with the will to turn this round?
No, it's not too late, but it is very late. I mean, look, as I say, it's not yet July, and that means 3 years on from then, we still have a Labour government with a large majority, and nothing can dislodge them. So there's a lot of ruin left in this country for them to perpetrate on us. So 3 years down the road, it's going to get a lot worse because Starmer's no good and nobody who's going to take his place is going to make it any better.
I'm hoping that the banks call time like they did on Trust. Trevor, it's always an absolute pleasure. Former political editor of The Sun, Trevor Kavanagh, thank you so much indeed, my friend. 20 minutes to 10, we're live across the United Kingdom. Big news story of the day, of course, appalling attack overnight on the Hezbollah ambulances. I've been to Hatzola. 4 ambulances in Golders Green attacked, literally attacked. I mean, blatantly an anti-Semitic hate crime. Starmer, a few platitudes. Khan, not very many. We sent Samara Gill down to Golders Green ahead of 10 o'clock. She's going to give us a report from on the ground. Those are the scenes if you're watching. It's absolutely outrageous. And we just repeat what we've said all morning. Why is anti-Semitism not on the same plane as other forms of racism? Utterly disgusting. Stephen Millings in Belfast, or Fast. The Jewish community don't want Starmer's bloody thoughts. They want his action, the weak, lily-livered moron. Brilliant. Stephen's another one. In London, he says, if I were part of the Jewish community in North London, I wouldn't want Starmer on Mahmood there. Hollow, trite words, platitudes and Labour speak. I'll cope with it myself, thank you. Samantha's in London. Morning, Jess. Starmer's not going to prioritise those Jewish ambulance attacks. Swift justice is out of the window when it comes to the left attacking Jews. Starmer will probably send Lammy again with a crime number and a no further action note. God, Natasha, it's not just white working class boys. All white boys are discriminated against. I know some mega bright, highly educated young men who were great athletes as well. None of them got places at uni. We all know why. In our country, we put our own at the bottom of the pile. Utter madness. It's beginning to look wicked. My God, it's going on. Yes, good. 20 minutes to 10. We'll take your calls next, according to the boss. Coming back.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Yeah, Julia from Tennessee. Very good morning to Jane about the ambulance attack in Golders Green. Morning, Janie.
Morning, JK. These ambulances that have been set fire to. Let's see how quickly Keir Starmer can turn around the court case and the prison sentences for these guys if they catch them. Like the Southport riots. They were in court, prison, before you knew what was going on. So let's see how fast they do it when the shoe's on the other foot.
Couldn't agree more. Morning, Tim. No, yeah, Jez. The ambulance is being torched is turning into something to me that's a bit similar to what the IRA did in the 80s. But who is it, I wonder? Ruben. As this country becomes more like the 1930s Germany, any idea when this government will require me to start wearing a Jewish badge? Yeah, I'm so sorry, it does my head in. Michael says the Met police chiefs will probably solve the arson attacks on Jewish ambulances by banning them from the streets. Problem solved, says Michael. Let's go to Leeds. Craig, you're on Talk Breakfast. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can I just ask, you're in Leeds. Are you traumatised?
I'm very traumatised, but luckily I've lived in 9 countries in 26 years.
No, you're getting ahead of me. Craig, no, you're getting ahead of me. There's a story today which just about, in my humble opinion, sums up what's wrong with this damn country. Leeds Council, on the back of Nigel Farage coming on Thursday for an hour... I need to tell people this because it almost made me fall off my chair, sent a memorandum out to staff on Friday saying that there will be a safe place at the council offices for the next week in case anybody's traumatised because that far-right man came to Leeds, and if you're traumatised, we'll get you therapy. What the bloody hell's the world come to, Craigie?
It's absolutely crazy. But let's call it for what it is. It's all for votes at the end of the day. But I've been dealing quite a lot with the church at the moment. And this, they've released 78 million to protect against religious churches, synagogues, mosques, and the English church, the British church, get less than 5 million. Muslims get 40 million, and there's 27 million go to the Jewish community. Now, there's been 125 arson attacks on churches in the last year. There's been 50 to 60 attacks for the last 3 years on UK churches, and none of it is being reported upon. And the local church is actually crowdfunding to try and get some funding for this. It's absolutely insanity. But for some reason, we can't go out there and provide funding and security for our own churches. It's our own culture that is being decimated at the moment.
What do you say? I mean, I wanted to put that call out there. I'm delighted to do so. What do you say to people who would listen to this and listen to you and go, "Oh, that's outrageously racist. That's far right. That's unfair"? What would you say?
Facts. It's facts. When you look at the facts, there was 125 last year. There's been 50 attacks for the last 3 years. There's been 3,227 attacks that don't go down as arson attacks against the church, but none of this is reported.
Completely agree.
There has been attacks on some mosques. There has been a lot of attacks on Jewish and synagogues, and if you were to reverse those numbers of the UK Christian church to mosques, where on earth would we be?
Got to go. Thank you very much indeed. Very good, salient points. I think Pete has it right. He says, I'm pretty bloody traumatised by every action of this Labour government. I'd like to know where the safe space is for all of us to sit and have a conversation about it. It's right here, love. Have we got that voice note? You've taken that away. Do you not want me to? Oh, we're not playing. Oh, God. Oh. Right. We promised you we're going to get an ad break. Then we're going live to Golders Green, where those 4 ambulances were torched by that anti-Semitic mob overnight. Samara Gill. It's only taken her 4 days to get there. She's next on Talk.
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in Crisis. Subscribe to The Royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I just want to share something with you from Talk. I'm watching the news channels across the United Kingdom. Talk is talking about that anti-Semitic hate crime against Jews when those ambulances were set on fire. Sky, to its credit, are doing exactly the same. Do you know what the BBC have been reporting for the last 20 minutes? This is an absolute fact. The BBC are reporting on the French local elections, where they're delighted to announce, well done to G-Spot, he's right, so the headline is, Socialists hold on to power in major cities. They haven't even talked about what's happening in Golders Green. That's ridiculous. Quick call before we go to Samara. They're just getting... Come on, you lot. Morning, Des. How are you, son?
Yeah, I'm all right, Jeremy.
That doesn't sound like a Manchester accent.
No, I'm from the West Country.
Oh, lovely. Whereabouts in the West Country are you from, lover?
Barnstable.
Oh, Barnstable, there in Devon. That's lovely. Right, we've only got a minute. Time is precious. What do you want to say?
I think we're letting the government off the hook here by calling it anti-Semitic. It's a terrorist act. If you see the way them lads walk, their stance and everything, they've done this before. We keep moaning about people coming across here and we don't know who they are. No, we do. The army is here. The trained people are here. That's a terrorist act, and it should be called terrorist, not anti-Semitic, because the government would just ignore it because it's anti-Semitic. Soon as you talk terrorism, it'll raise their hackles and they will have to do other things, put other things in place.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you very much indeed for your call. 0344 499 1000. The other story that we just popped out of nowhere earlier was that Leeds County Council have told all members who work there, if you're traumatised by Nigel Farage's visit last week, there's a safe space where you can have therapy. What a load of old tosh. Reg says, I'm not surprised about Labour saying that about Farage. If you remember, it wasn't that long ago that Sadiq Khan said, as a rule of thumb, I'm not going to speak or communicate with the Reform members. Good morning to Badger. Pardon? Natalie Badger. Oh, she's in Peterborough. Good morning. I think it's absolutely horrific with the ambulances and that it took so long for Keir and Sadiq to actually make any comment. The people who volunteer to help those in need are being attacked in racial anti-Semitic attacks. What is this country coming to? Let's cross exactly. Fair play to. We dragged her out of bed and the wonderful cameraman as well. We thank them. They're live in Golders Green. A very good morning, Samara Gill. How are you?
Morning, Jeremy. I'm good, but it's very tense behind me. There's a fight breaking out right now. It seems to be and I'm outside where the attack happened last night, for those listening. It's a Jewish man. He's yelling, they don't represent us. This is a small part of the community. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. We've also got a helicopter flying up above. There's hundreds of people from the community right here, just all surrounding me. Lots from the Orthodox Jewish community and other Jews just looking at as to what's going on. I think we've got some members of some MPs behind us. It's all kicking off again. I think tensions are really high here, Jeremy.
Hardly surprising. Just for people tuning in, we dragged Samara out of bed to send her down to Golders Green overnight. 4 Hatzalah ambulances, which are ambulances belonging to the Jewish community, funded by the Jewish community, driven by volunteers from the Jewish community, and by the way, not just for the Jewish community, for the whole of that area. They were set on fire in what is an absolutely obvious anti-Semitic hate crime. And unlike last time in Southport, Starmer had the militia out in 5 minutes. Here the police are saying, yes, it's an anti-Semitic hate crime, we'll look into it. There is real anger this morning, Samara, amongst our listeners and viewers who are saying, as I've been saying, why is anti-Semitism not put on the same level as any other abhorrent racism? Because it is as bad and it never gets treated the same.
The Jewish people are getting it from all directions. Who could this have been? The IRGC people, the anti-Zionists, the far right, far right is what I'm talking about. You know, Jewish people are not safe within this country. It's quite evident from what's happened here, and it's just devastating. You know, just last week I interviewed a man who was pushed in front of a car while walking out of a synagogue, and the guy yelled, "Die Jew." I mean, this is the state of the country right now, all while the Labour government's trying to put together Islamophobia laws. What we need is actual help for the Jewish community, not more help for the Islamists. And I just think Labour doesn't quite understand what it is. They're just trying to bag votes while there are communities suffering right now.
I agree with everything, but I'd go further. I think they know absolutely what they're doing. And what's come out of the show this morning is cynically, maybe this is cynical, that fundamentally almost everything they do, what governs their thought process is political survival. Wes Streeting is a prime example. He won his last seat from one of those independent Gaza announcing independent MPs by 650 votes. The Labour left know that they have lost that political ground to the Green Party because they don't mention trees anymore. They mention Gaza and Muslims and trans ideology. That's how Hannah Spencer won Gorton and Denton. That's what she did. But my point is this, Samara. If Starmer's government's disregard for the British people is so palpable that he puts political survival ahead of what's fundamental, that is a terrorist attack. If that had happened, I'm going to say it, and if I get into trouble, if that had happened in another part of this country, in another community, people will be up in arms. The way the Jewish people are treated is fundamentally and utterly, in my mind, disgusting. And I do not understand how a Prime Minister who's married to a Jewish woman is not doing more. I don't even know why we as a society are not doing more. There is this correlation between Netanyahu or Gaza and the Jewish community is wrong. These are Jews living peacefully in this country, paying their taxes and building businesses. I think it's outrageous.
There's going to be some sort of exodus. I mean, we're already seeing it. Many Jews feel safer in Israel than on these streets behind me, which is egregious considering we're the type of country that defended against the Nazis in the Second World War. I mean, do I need to remind the audience of this? I think we've slipped really, really far down into a very putrid sort of society whereby we're grasping at certain voter groups, playing sectarian politics, and having total disregard for the Jewish community. And I think, why does it have to come to this? You know, all those marches, the Al-Quds Day march, which I was just last Monday morning on your show talking about, that was 1 degree away from this, and now we see, as you said, I think it is an act of terrorism. It's being treated as a hate crime at the moment, but I think this is a direct act of terror against ambulances which are made for the survival of Jewish people. You couldn't get more of a direct attack than this, Jeremy.
But actually, not picking you up, the point that's come out from doing this, and I didn't know this at 6 o'clock, is that those ambulances, funded by and driven by Jews, are for the whole community, not just Jewish people. That's why people are also saying it's absolutely unbelievable that we've got to this point. I know Julia's coming on next. Are you going to try and speak to some of the people down there and see what the feeling is on the ground, yeah?
I am. There are plenty of residents here. I'm going to get the full report for you guys and understand just what's happening on these streets of Golders Green.
Listen, really, really grateful. Thank you very much indeed. She got out of bed to do that. There'll be more with Julia and throughout the day. Samara Gill down in Golders Green, where that cowardly attack on the Jewish community took place overnight. Whatever your thoughts, listen, we're delighted to get them from you. Very good morning. Julia Hartley-Brewer, how are you?
Good morning. Yes, I'm very well. Yeah, I mean, that attack, though, I mean, again, I find it extraordinary, though, when you get like, the Prime Minister and you say, oh, you know, this, and we're shocked. It's like, what are you shocked about, mate? What are you shocked about? You allow people to shout, we're going to rape your wives and daughters down the street, down that virtually that street. You know, you allow people in the to march in central London every couple of weeks with anti-Semitic, you know, posters and things. And what did you think was going to happen?
Did you see Sadiq Khan couldn't mention anti-Semitism in his statement?
No,
just, you know, this is cowardly, it's hatred and intimidation. No mention of it. I listen, I'm a bit outspoken. All racism is abhorrent, but quite how the Jews have such a bad deal is beyond me. I think
it is just extraordinary. Well, we're also going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about the Trump ultimatum to Iran, you name it. I mean, it's all coming up. Starmer cover up over that Chagos Island missile. I mean, didn't
That's not going to happen, that deal, though, now, is it? Never in a million years.
Fingers crossed, Dave. Labour meeting this afternoon about the energy issue, because again, people always think these things are happening over there to other people, but but then there could be an Iran-backed group who responsible for the arson attack in Golders Green in North London. But also, we are going to see our oil prices go up, our petrol prices go up, our food prices go up, heating your home, you name it. We are going to be in a pretty bad state in a few